where SMU is a very healthy 11-point favorite. That game is on ESPN too, so you'll be able to check that out. SMU is 2-0. They played week 0 as well. The line right now is SMU minus 11.5. The over-under is 55.5. And Utah State takes their show on the road to Los Angeles at the Coliseum, where they are 28.5-point underdog against Southern Cal. So a lot of really fun football to get to on the show today. We have a good guest list. RSL is off for another 9 days before they see Houston. We'll start things off today with the head coach of SUU, Delane Fitzgerald, my old buddy. We had him a couple of years ago prior to the last iteration of SUU versus Utah. So we'll get with Coach Fitzgerald today, and I want to understand his takeaways from Game 1 and get his take on what Utah football can do in the Big 12 right out of the gates. Craig Bolerjack will stop by today. It's the big show, big hour, typically on Thursdays, but we have some traveling situations, so we're going to bring Bowler in via phone today. And then Gordon will join us later via phone as well. We're going to do a little Utah Hockey Club conversation, fun conversation yesterday with the new play-by-play voice of the Utah Hockey Club. I was not aware that they were going to bring in broadcasters from the Arizona market. I had heard that that's something they were going to try and stay away from. But Matt McConnell stopped by the show yesterday. Nick Golachek will stop by today. He's the color commentator, sitting next to Matt for the Utah Hockey Club games. September 22nd, preseason game number 1. October 8th, the Chicago Blackhawks are in town, which is a sentence that, for me, as a lifelong NHL guy, is funny to even say. But hockey is a reality in our market, so we're going to cover it on this program because we cover everything on this program. Reminder, real quick out of the gates. Every year around this time, I get the same 4 or 5 direct messages like, hey, it's Ute football season. Why are you talking about BYU, Jazz, RSL hockey? Here's the deal. If you're complaining about something you're listening to in the year of our Lord, 2024, that is a you problem, buddy. All right, so of course we're going to cover Utah football. We're the home of the Utes. We're going to bring you all the content we can. We have the coaches show on our station. We'll bring back some of the interviews Sean gets during the midday that I can't get in the afternoon because they're practicing right now. So slow your roll, calm down, take a few deep breaths. If you're only looking for Utah football, go to ESPN700sports.com or check out one of the myriad of podcasts that you can find if that's all you want, free lined into the system right now. So thank you for the feedback. I get it every year about this time. Reminder of what we do in this show every day is we cover all of our local products and we take care of our partner, the University of Utah, the best we can. Delane Fitzgerald, Craig Bolerjack, Nick Golachek, Gordon Monson, me, Spence Checketts, all of you, the great listeners, and that guy, Porter Larson, on a Thursday. Speaking of covering everything, do you know how long it's been since a U.S. men's tennis player has won a major championship?
Oh, a major specifically, you got to go back. It's been a while.
It's been
Spence.
21 years.
Yeah. The entirety of the last 2 decades has been essentially dominated by 3, sometimes 4 guys. You got to go way back to turn of the century almost to get that last U.S. Grand Slam.
For the first time in 18 years, a U.S. man will play for a major championship. So I was watching some of the highlights last night as the U.S. Open is a really fun tournament. Francis Tiafoe, Taylor Fritz are going to play in the semifinal. The winner of that will advance to the final, and hopefully they can get it done. All right, Coach Delane Fitzgerald will be our first guest right out of the gates, but on a Thursday afternoon. Before we get to Coach Fitzgerald, courtesy of our good friends, your good friends too, at Beer Bar right downtown, Salt Lake City, Utah. It is time now for your opening tip. Baylor Bears rolling to town coming up on Saturday for a 1:30 kick time against the University of Utah. That line has stayed pretty steady, which means most wise guys or sharks are staying away from it, okay? It has moved once towards the Utes. Utah, as of right now, is a 15-point favorite. The over-under is 55.5. Both these teams handle their business with extreme ease week 1 against some lesser opponents. All due respect. Baylor, Utah played last year. It went down to the wire. You guys remember the Utes were playing essentially their third and fourth string quarterbacks all game long and kind of going from Nate to Bryson and Bryson to Nate. And they were a little bit fortunate to get out of town, get out of Waco with a win. Baylor handled Tarleton State 45-3 week one. And, of course, you guys know the University of Utah curb stomp Southern Utah 49-0. The more and more I study this matchup, the more and more I listen to people that cover Baylor, the more and more I listen to people break down this game, the more and more I think it's an excellent matchup in the favor of the University of Utah. Dave Aranda, who we know around here, like around here, and respect an awful lot around here, is calling his own defense for the first time in a few years, and he is literally coaching for his job. And, ultimately, week one for either team is probably tough to ascertain what's real and what is not. Baylor, for the most part, returns a lot of their players from the team last year, which I always remind people. Whenever I hear, like, hey, they returned like 13 starters, I'm like, yeah, but were they good? Like, that's not just like a blanket statement for, okay, they're awesome because they're returning players. Baylor was one of the worst teams in the country last year on defense. They were the worst defensive team in the Big 12. They were 113th in the nation in total defense. They do bring in a transfer quarterback into Quan Finn from Toledo, who had a really good year. He was the conference player of the year. He had a couple of awful interceptions week one against Tarleton State, but he is a dynamic athlete. If he can get out of the pocket, then I think he has a chance to make some plays, but I don't have any confidence that he'll be able to get out of the pocket against this Utah defense, who I have to imagine is chomping at the bit to show the country who they are against a P4 team like the Baylor Bears. It's not a conference game, as we've talked about. It's non-con because it was scheduled prior to. But I think coming up on Saturday, and I can't speak for the players, the coaches, but I would have to imagine after simply handling your business, and I heard Lander Barton talking about this during some sound after practice, after handling your business against a team that everybody knows probably should not be on the same field as you for several different reasons, in my opinion, as you know, it's probably a little bit more exciting to understand, like, okay, afternoon kick, it's on Fox. It's Baylor, even though it's technically not a non-conference game. It's a conference peer. It's a conference foe. It's a team that you want to continue to send a message to, like, hey, we're here in the Big 12 to compete, win games, and win championships. So I'd imagine they're chomping at the bit a little bit. We'll see what they do at cornerback in place of Keenan Johnson, who sadly was hurt and lost for the year. But, for those of us that were around last year, one injury, it actually sounds like a welcome piece of news based off of how often players were going down last year every single week. It just seemed like training camp, practice, games. You hear from Coach Witt on Monday, and we're hearing about 2 or 3 season enders every week. So, of course, you're gutted for Keenan, who will be back, according to Morgan Scalley, to play next year. But from a Utah fan perspective, you probably feel pretty good that it was only one serious injury coming up to deal with, not just this weekend, but all year long. Running back distribution continues to be interesting. Dejon Stanley, the conversation around Dejon's pretty interesting. I heard Brant Keithy, Cam Rising, and one of the defensive backs say at practice that Dejon is the fastest player on the team, and it's not even close. But I kind of go back and forth on this because if we call it how it is, and Andy Ludwig said this after practice, he said any of us could have made the throws that Cam did to Dejon. I mean, he was just wide open and then ran away from people. So is that a snapshot moment of an opportunistic, fortunate situation for this young man? And you're happy for him. He only had 9 touches all of last year. He had 9 last Thursday. But did that really tell you anything? Like, suddenly is Dejon Stanley in the mix with Jalen and Mike Mitchell and obviously Mekhi Bernard? Like, or was it just a couple of moments in time where Andy called up a great play and SUU blew it and he was running up the sideline and it looked like flag football, or you're playing in the backyard with your brothers? I'm curious to see what that running back situation looks like, because Baylor, certainly on paper, bigger, stronger, more physical up front than SUU is, obviously, being a Big 12 program. Their first game against Tarleton State was a little bit like Utah's first game against SUU. I think Baylor a little bit more mistake-prone. Like I said, DeQuan Finn, their new quarterback, with a couple of really, really bad interceptions against a much lesser team. And if Tarleton State can do that to you, my guess is the University of Utah will be able to find a way to get that done as well. So excited for this game. As I say, every single week. Remember, guys, you only get 6 of these things. You only get 5 of these things now. These home games, and after Saturday, there are 4 home games left all year, unless something crazy happens. So get excited, show up early, get in your seats, get loud and proud. Come join us at the tailgate lot for the ESPN 700 tailgate. We'll have food from Wingers. We have craft cocktails from our good friends at Clearwater Distillery. I'll be there. Porter's going to be there doing the show. It's always a fun time, so we love to see you at the tailgate lot as Utah welcomes in Baylor. Real quick, BYU on the road tomorrow against SMU. If you're a BYU fan, I do think you need to feel good that there was this underlying anxiety, even against a team like Southern Illinois, as the line continued to move in the direction of the Salukis. And it wasn't close. You smoked him. You handled your business. Jake Ratzlaff, QB1. We talked about this on the show a few weeks ago. I was told he was going to be the guy, and he is. And he showed that he's up for the challenge, at least for 1 week. On the road, SMU, Friday night in Dallas, a little bit tricky. You're a double-digit underdog. And if BYU loses tomorrow night, they have to beat Wyoming and then find 4 conference wins to go to a bowl game. And I got to be honest, I can't see it. I do not see 4 conference wins on paper for BYU, at least as we sit here today. Injuries happen. Teams change. They should be a favorite on the road at Laramie. That's always a tricky road trip. A lot of people around here know that. The good news for BYU is the majority of their hardest games are at Lavelle Edwards. They're home against K-State. They're home against Arizona. They're home against Oklahoma State. They're home against Kansas. But they are on the road at Utah, at UCF. I keep talking about UCF as a sneaky team. And at Arizona State, who, if week 1 is any indication, might be a little bit better than we thought that they were going to be in year 2 under Kenny Dillingham. I view tomorrow night, if you're a BYU fan, as much more important than I think most people are making it out to be. Again, you lose tomorrow night, you have to beat Wyoming on the road, and then find 4 conference wins to go bowling. You look at the schedule. I don't see 4 conference wins. Maybe 2, maybe 3. I said at the start of the season, for BYU to go bowling, feels to me that they have to stay clean in the non-con. Week 1 behind you, you did your job. Week 2 coming up tomorrow against SMU. I view it as more or less a must-win if BYU wants to go bowling. That's at 5 o'clock, and the TV coverage is on ESPN2. All right, we are back again this year at the Utah RV Super Show. It's one of my favorite events we have in our community. It's Utah's premier RV event at the Mountain America Expo Center. Imagine some of the largest mobile homes on the market sitting in one of Utah's largest expo centers. The doors open today. The doors open next Thursday, so September the 12th, and the event goes through Sunday, September the 15th. Expect to see the new 2025 models and special closeout pricing on all 2024 models just in time for the upcoming holidays. There's something for every price range with special show financing. Also, bring a can of food for the Utah Food Bank. You get $1 off per can, up to half off adult admission. Great cause, obviously. Participate there. Discount passes can be found at UtahRVSupershow.com. All right, coming up on the other side, the head coach of SUU, excited to catch up with Delane Fitzgerald. Want to talk about his prep for Utah, the film study, what he saw, and from a coach's standpoint, what he likes most about the Utes, what he thinks they're going to do the rest of the way. Then it's time for Craig Bolerjack, Nick Olachek, Gordon Monson, and we'll go from there on this Thursday. So keep it right here on ESPN 700. All right, we got a busy show on this Thursday. Craig Bolerjack will stop by. We'll do some college football and maybe a little jazz with Bowler. Nick Olachek will stop by. He's the color commentator for the new Utah Hockey Club broadcast team. So we're going to do a little Utah Hockey Club content on the show. Gordon Monson from the Trib later on. So a busy show, but we'll start with friend of the program. He's the head coach of SUU. He is Delane Fitzgerald on a Thursday. Coach, happy Thursday, sir. How are you?
Spencer, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm well. I appreciate your time today. So let's start with I want to start because I was doing some reading on your background, Coach, and your method has worked prior to coming to SUU. And I do want to talk Utes. I want to talk Week 1, but your method seems to be working at SUU just like it did in your other stops. Now, these things do not happen overnight, right? And we always notice the change when it hits us in the face. But what none of us see are all of the hard work and the things that you implement to build a culture behind the scenes before it actually manifests in front of people. What is it, Coach, about your style of building programs that seems to breed success if given enough time?
Yes, Spencer, surrounding yourself with the right people, surrounding yourself with really, really good people that are knowledgeable at their trade, knowledgeable coaches, knowledgeable strength and conditioning coach, and then having academic people and character people around you really helps.
Wondering what led you to decide that SUU was your next stop when you were experiencing winning at a high level prior to taking this job. What was it about Cedar City? What was it about the program that attracted you to SUU?
I did a lot of research and knew that the program had some success in the past, had success at NAIA, actually had success. NAIA had success Division II, and I knew that they had success a decade ago at the FCS level, and we just thought we could do that again. We thought we could recapture what they had here before, and you asked a question, and I gave a little bit of a different answer, but we think our program works anywhere, and what we're doing off the field and what we're doing on the field, we think it works anywhere, but just really thought this was a place that would grasp what we were doing and that it would take off.
You know, Coach, and Delane Fitzgerald is with us. He's the head coach of the Thunderbirds SUU, who we saw up here in Salt Lake a week ago today, actually. We talk often up here about the ever-changing landscape of college football as it pertains to transfer portal and NIL. And obviously, these days, conference realignment, TV deals and such. How has the changes, and I'll say sometimes the chaos in college football, how has it affected your job and your program down at SUU?
Yeah, chaos is a great word. It's changed it tremendously. And when you figure that you put NIL and portal in at the exact same time, and they both really catch hold and jump, it's changed a lot. Never before has there been as many kids, and it's not us, it's every single college program. Has there been as many 18 to 22-year-olds walk in a coach's office and just stick their hand out and ask for money? Just ask for straight cash money. That's never happened before, but it happens now. And then if they don't get what they want, if they're not happy, they jump in a portal and leave. Spencer, we've made it a point. We're a little more old school. We've made it a point to be at least 50 to 60% high school recruits, and we want to recruit Utah. And then after Utah, we need to sign a player or two from Vegas and Phoenix and Southern California because of our location to be competitive. But we have, you and I aren't far away from a young man that's on a college football team, and he's going to be on his 10th team in 5 years. That's going to happen.
Man, I wonder to follow up on that because, if you've never been to Cedar City, it's lovely. I like to go down there and play golf. I wonder, of course, up here at the University of Utah, it's a different recruiting pitch. And if we're honest, Coach, they're probably talking to some different players than you're talking to more often than not. Obviously, you want to, level the playing field as much as you can. But when you're sitting across from parents, when you're sitting across from a young man and his parents, what do you say to them about SUU, about Cedar City, to motivate them to come play for you?
We talk to them about a small town family environment, and we have 16,000 students now, so we're not an itty bitty school, but we talk to them about a small town, campus feel, and the fact that people on our campus actually care about the students. And then we talk to them about the values of our program. which are accountability and punctuality and hard work and discipline and loyalty and the value we're going to place on their child's education. And then at the end, I've said it 3 times, but we talk to them about the family environment here. You and I just talked about the portal. We had 2 players. We went 6-5 last year, and when you have a winning record at FCS or at the Group of 5 right now, people come and they raid your kitchen. That they come and take all of your good players. We only had 2 players leave. We only had 2 players that were disloyal and left, and the rest have chose to stay here and be T-Birds.
So let's move over now to what you learned about your team week 1. And I do want to talk Utes in a moment, but let's hone in on your group specifically because, look, the Kyles built this program up here. It's a behemoth. And certainly there's the dynamic of the FCS, FBS stuff that happens every single year. And I know you got to hand it to you a little bit, but I would imagine after watching some film, maybe you learned some things about your guys. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, Spencer, Kyle Whittingham and his staff built a great program. I keep defending, they're ranked 11th this week, and in my opinion, they're at least top 8. They may be top 6 in the country. I believe that even more now than I did last week before we played them. On our program, we usually execute. We every week, week in and week out, we execute our offense, execute our defense, we execute our special teams. Sometimes we get outplayed, but we usually execute our game plan, usually execute play calls. We didn't last week. You have to attribute some of that to how good Utah is and how loud that stadium is, but we didn't execute. Third and short, it's usually a given for us that we're going to convert and get a first down. Well, we didn't convert and get first downs. We committed foolish penalties and put ourselves in 3rd and long, which never happens. And then brings me to my last point. We usually don't shoot ourselves in the foot, and we shot ourselves in the foot last week. The penalties, not executing, the blown coverages on defense. We're usually a lot more sound in the pass game on defense than we were last week. But I take my hat off to who we were playing because we were playing a pretty good opponent.
So let's move over now to that opponent. The Utah Utes, of course, year 1 in the Big 12. Vegas thinks they're going to win it. So does the media. Sounds like you believe they have a shot as well. So the way I'll phrase the question, Coach, is what stood out most when you watched film to prep and when you went back to review? What are some things that maybe caught you off guard a little bit?
Their size, strength. Their size and strength and physicality are the first thing that everybody on their schedule sees. They don't go into an FBS game against us. They're amazingly athletic. They don't go into an FBS game and out-athlete anybody. They're very fundamentally sound. That their technique is great. Their pad level is great. I just talked about their strength and toughness and physicality and all are good. But then they're extremely well coached. Spencer, if not the best coaching staff in the country, they're top 5, easy.
Well, yeah, and a lot of people agree with you, Coach. And Delane Fitzgerald is our guest from SUU, the head coach down there. Every year and for a sports talk radio host, simply like coaching rankings are great fodder. So we go over the rankings, and Coach Witt, once upon a time, maybe cracked the top 25, and now he's more or less consensus top 5, if not higher. To your point, what, from your vantage point, as a guy who's been a head coach for a long time, stands out most about what Kyle's built up here?
Yeah, the loyalty of his assistant coaches. When you've had the success, and let's be honest, when he got there, I know that Urban left him with a great football program and a lot of good players, but they were a really high level Group of 5 program, low level, Power 5 program at that time, and they've gone from that level to the elite Power 4 programs, and the coaches have stayed. You got an older brother on the staff, and he's completely loyal to you and a great recruiter. The strength conditioning coach stays. The offensive coordinator leaves and comes back. The defensive coordinator, who I think top 3 defensive coordinators in the country, he stays. Just the loyalty year in and year out. They've all had opportunities. They've all had opportunities to leave, and they didn't. They stayed. You go all the way to their administration. They got a bunch of administrators running around there that have been there the entire length that Witt's been there. The loyalty is pretty impressive.
So Cameron Rising comes back for his 7th year of college football after missing
Spencer, speaking of guys that have been there 20 years, I say guys been there 20 years, and you bring up Cam Rising.
Yeah, again, yeah, the new thing in college football. If you were in college for 7 years, once upon a time, the crack is, oh, you played for BYU, and now it's everywhere.
Yeah.
So, but I wonder, Coach, I want to hone in on Cam because again, prepping for him, and then seeing it, and 5 touchdown passes and 10 completions. I wonder what you would say to our fan base up here about Utah's QB1.
Yeah, I would be a lot more. I'm storytelling now. I'd be a lot more offended about playing, a really old Cam Rising, except for the fact my brother was a member of the 1999 Virginia Tech team that lost to Chris Winkie in Florida State
Yeah, I
in
remember
the
that
national
well. Yeah.
title game.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think Chris Winkie finished second or third in the Heisman, but he was 28 or 29 years old.
That's right. Yeah.
So yeah, whenever I got salty looking across the ball, looking across the sidelines at Cam Rising, I just thought, hey, it could be Chris Winkie. A great pro-style quarterback. Great pro-style quarterback. He's been around for a long time. He's seen a lot of things. You're not going to confuse him. I was shocked that we got some of the hits on him that we got on him last Thursday night, and I expect their offense is going to clean that up and keep him from getting hit the rest of the season. As long as he stays healthy. They're going to finish 1-2 in the Big 12 and have a chance at the national playoffs.
So
you wanted something specific.
Love it.
Very, very, very crafty. His eyes are great, and then he very seldomly ever misses his mark. He's one of the more accurate quarterbacks in college football right now.
Love to hear that. I wonder what you would say to our fan base. So, Coach, as you know, it's Utah's first foray in a Big 12 play after a decade plus in the Pac-12. And certainly there's a lot to miss about the Pac-12, and it's sad there's not a home for West Coast football, but it is what it is, and college football has changed. You've been around, you've coached around, you know the game better than I ever will, and most of our listeners too. What should our listeners know about what the Big 12 has in store as Utah kind of starts this first edition of this journey?
Now, I would say the thing to look at is Utah's physicality versus the run and gun in that conference, because everybody in that conference wants to spread the field, and the field's 53 1/3 yards wide. They want to spread it out 53 1/3 yards and play spacing and triangle passing games, and spacing in the pass game is really the big thing in that conference, and that's not what Utah does. So I think Utah's size and strength and physicality versus the speed and the spacing and the throw game in the Big 12 will be the things to watch.
I would never ask you for a pick for a game because you're an active head coach at a program, so I'm not asking for that on Saturday. But look, the coaching fraternity is small. I'm sure you know Dave Aranda. Dave is, of course, coaching Baylor, now calling his own defensive plays for the first time in a number of years, which is probably a good thing because that's where he shines. And Baylor rolls into town coming up on Saturday at 1:30. I wonder what your thoughts are on what Ute fans may see coming up Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, well, here's an insight to a head coach. I didn't know they were playing Baylor this week.
Oh wow!
once you play them, and especially when it's as miserable as last Thursday night was, once you play them, you move on and don't think about them anymore.
Sure.
Hey, some history for everybody listening. One of Dave Aranda's first jobs was SUU, Southern Utah University.
That's right.
Dave Aranda was one of Ed Lamb's first hires here, and I may get the year wrong, but around 2008, 2007, 2008, Ed Lamb hired Dave Aranda here, and he was the defensive coordinator here for exactly 30 days. So there's some trivia that people don't know because I'm sure Dave doesn't put it on his resume. Hey, good football coach. Good football coach. They'll be prepared defensively. I'm assuming that Baylor has some good players. You know, as much money as they throw around NIL and recruiting and some of that, I'm sure they have good players. Anybody on the Ute schedule this year, I'm going to take the Utes.
I like it. Fair enough. All right. Since you are a head coach, as I said, actively, and your attention should not be on other programs, I'll end with a question to bring it back around to where we started about you guys down there. So you're picked to finish third in the conference. As I referenced, when we look at your track record, Coach Fitzgerald, you win where you go when given enough time. What has to fall into place for you guys this year in your third season to take the step up that you're hoping for?
We got in and out of Salt Lake City last week healthy. and that was a big first step. And I'd like to tell you we play those games for in-state rivalry, but we play those games to pay bills at our university. And us playing that game keeps a couple of our other sports alive, non-revenue sports. It keeps them going, keeps them thriving, new uniforms, travel, etc. We turn around and do that again this Saturday. We go to El Paso and play UTEP, for less money than the Utah game, but we're still in guarantee game season for us. We think we match up with UTEP, but we've got to get in and out of El Paso healthy this weekend. If I'm still sitting here and able to talk to y'all on Sunday and all of our players are healthy, we play 10 straight FCS games, and we'll be favored in 6 or 7 out of those 10 games. We've got to execute, get some leadership from our older players. But we've got to execute, not shoot ourselves in the foot. And then we've got to get some leadership and play harder. Play harder and play more physical than we did last Thursday night. Spencer, if we're able to do that, maybe you guys can interview me again Thanksgiving week because we'll be headed to the playoffs.
Mark it down, Coach. I would love to have you on because this was great. It was illuminating. I appreciate your time. Congrats on full health, and go get UTEP, and we'd love to do it again soon, okay?
Hey, Spencer, love y'all's show. Tell Porter I said hello, and you guys have a great fall.
All right, there he is, Delane Fitzgerald, the head coach of SUU. He has, in previous stops, shown his ability to create culture and win football games. Southern Virginia, Frostburg State, and now at Southern Utah in his 3rd year, they're expected to have their best year, one step at a time. It takes a lot of time to build. So they're picked to finish 3rd in the United Conference. And as Coach Fitzgerald outlined, they've got a bit of a bear of a schedule, of course, starting at Utah, which is impossible. It's like unfair. Then at UTEP coming up on Saturday, which is a 7 o'clock kickoff time. So appreciate Coach Fitzgerald's time on this Thursday afternoon. Want to tell you about my friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. So they've got a special starting this weekend, which is free money, essentially. 1 Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week of September. So if you get 4 picks right, you win money. You're getting 1 right out of the gate. So in September, you only have to get 3 right, which is a bit of a game changer, quite frankly. I've tried the Prize Picks thing. That will definitely help. So every football weekend in September, that's 4 weeks of free wins. Don't miss this deal on Prize Picks because it's gone when September ends. So here's the deal. Really easy to do. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code ESPN700 to get $50 off. To get $50 instantly when you play just a $5 bet. So promo code ESPN700 on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50. It's guaranteed. Our good friends at Prize Picks run your game. Porter, Coach Fitzgerald wants me to tell you hello. So I thought I'd pass that on.
I appreciate it. It's my guy.
Is that your guy?
That's my guy.
I think that went better today than it did a couple years ago.
Again,
you didn't listen, did you? You were busy.
No, I did.
Our YouTube
I did.
Channel is good.
It did go well. I think the last time you talked to him, he maybe his candor caught you off guard a little bit, and you thought he was mad. Maybe. I think sometimes it's hard with Delane because he is very, very direct.
No, in fairness, I asked a dumbass question. It wasn't his fault. It was my fault as the interviewer. I asked the dumbest question that I could have possibly asked. You know who he sounds like? I know you weren't producing the show when we were able to pull this off, but my first year back on air, we had Dennis Lindsay live in studio. He sounds exactly like Dennis Lindsay. It's not just the accent, it's the cadence.
Right.
He sounds exactly like Dennis Lindsay.
A little bit of the timing, but with the twang as well. I think he's a guy who obviously knows football really well, and a lot to discuss on Baylor and Utah. And he's a Virginia guy, and as you mentioned, his family's Hokies. So,
how about his brother playing on one of the best Vatech teams of all time? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Yeah.
And one of the last times they were good.
Well, hang in there. You lived in the Cedar, right? Cedar City for a minute, didn't you?
I was a little further south, but I was in that area and covered both those teams for a minute.
I quite like it down there.
Yeah.
I could see myself retiring down there, just golfing, leave me alone. So here's what's going to happen. In a few years, you're going to be hosting this show.
This one?
Yes. I'm going to be retired, living in Cedar City, St. George.
You're going to retire in a few years?
Maybe. You don't know what I have in the cooker.
Okay.
Okay. And I'll have property on the North Shore. I'll make sure to hold down a bedroom for you. Probably have an apartment in New York. It's not a big deal, but that's the plan. I don't want any content when I'm golfing every day in retirement, but you're allowed to once a week. I'll come on your show.
Okay. I like that.
You're
I like
welcome.
that. You're going to come on and break it down like Delane Fitzgerald just did.
No, mostly I'll just talk about my golf game because at that point I'm not watching much of anything, just hanging out, having a good time.
I'll just have you and Paul on once a week for some tour talk.
Manifesting. This is what you – and remember my career change that I announced on air this week.
So you're going to be a life coach in semi-retirement in southern Utah in a few years. That's where we're headed?
Correct. Because it seems like those charlatans haven't made, dude.
Yeah.
You just create social channels, be like, I'm an influencer now.
Well, and apparently now you can get paid by foreign entities to do it.
Okay.
I'm just saying. You can.
Did you see Clay Travis is on the list?
Yeah.
Oh, that's my favorite thing today. Because I've been saying for years, I'll say it one more time, my man was a liberal attorney from Nashville who came on my show once a week for 2 years and then instantly changed everything. It's not because he's some thought leader or smart guy. He chases the money like most of them do. Okay, I'm not saying he's on his own here. But when he started building this loyal following based off of learning a script of simply right-wing nonsense, like, wait a second. I had you on my show every week for 2 years. You painted yourself as a liberal attorney from Nashville who covers college football.
Yeah.
So the fact that he was on that list today made my Thursday afternoon.
Well, and hey, believe right, left, do your thing, whatever. If you're reading something off a script and displaying it as your thoughts to the public, you're not a good person. So
yeah, this is not a political commentary. This is a commentary on charlatans. Life coaches or Clay Travis. Either one. They both work. Should we catch a break?
We could.
That was a weird ending. I do have – we're not going to do this right now. We'll save this for the end of the show. Did you read the story about the VP of content from the Commanders getting fired?
I did not dive into it, but I did see the story. I did see the link.
Okay. Look into it, and right before we say goodnight, I'm going to do a segment on this, and I'm not saying my guy is okay for what he said. Wait till you hear what the journalist did to secretly record their conversation. It is beyond pathetic.
There we go.
And should be illegal. The art of the tease.
There you go.
All right, 1 hour down, 3 hours to go. Bowler stops by. Coming up next right here on ESPN 700. Just got an email during the break. I got a Harmon's Foodie reward. I get a free bunch of bananas if I stop by the grocery store tonight. So that's exciting. As you get older, things like Harmon's Foodie grocery awards are fun. Our next guest, I don't know if Bowler is a Harmon's Foodie. Craig, where do you do your grocery shopping?
You know what? I don't do much of it, but I do like to grocery shop. I do hang out at Smith's. I hang out a little bit at Dan's. And then my wife kind of fills in all those gaps, which are many. But you know what? I'll take a banana.
Yeah.
Hell, I mean, it's good potassium, man. During the summer months, good for you.
Yeah, as you get older, you get excited about different things. I'm excited. Then on the way home, I'm going to stop and pick up some free bananas. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, does it give you pounds? How many pounds do you get? Or is it just one banana?
It's a bunch. So whatever that is.
Okay.
5 or 6 bananas, which is lovely.
Dude, what a weekend.
Yeah.
What a weekend you're going to have.
Yeah, you know what? Let's count the wins, Craig, as small as they are. Let's count the wins.
You got to. You got to do it.
All right, my man. I know you became a Chiefs fan about 6 years ago or so. Is that right? It seems like that's around the same time.
Oh, man, I tell you, I've been a Chiefs fan since I was about 6 years old.
I know.
I had that little red Wolfpack jacket, and my folks sat in the stands, and I can't believe in those days. It's a different time. But they let me sit by myself in the end zone seats, $5. $5.
Wow, that's awesome.
At Old Municipal Stadium, yeah, with the names of Len Dawson, and, of course, you had Lanier, and you had Curly Culp, and you had Buck Buchanan. God, just a great time, man. I had a great time.
So I have never been to Arrowhead, but pro football is back. And tonight at Arrowhead, it's the Ravens and the Chiefs, which is a rematch of the AFC Championship game a year ago. As someone who's been there, what's tonight going to be like? NFL, pro football, it's back, and it's week 1. It's at Arrowhead.
I think it's one of the most dynamic stadiums. I've been there a lot, called a game there, played some high school games there, which was just beyond my imagination. It is massive. Of course, they've got the issues of are they going to rebuild or, someplace else. You know what? It's such an iconic stadium. Old, yes, just like Kauffman was Kauffman Stadium, Royals where the Royals play. But, man, when that popped onto the scene, it was about as new and bright and shiny as you can imagine. But they own one of the best home crowds in the National Football League. And I think most fans would agree, and most teams would agree. So take advantage of that. Look, this game scares me. I mean, as a Chiefs fan, look, Lamar Jackson's a real deal, right? You know that. I mean, his escapability and his strength in the running game is such a big part of what he does. Mahomes isn't as powerful, but he can get to the edge and then just make things happen. So, yeah, I mean, it's a great way to kick it off tonight in Kansas City, Super Bowl champions. Can they do a three-peat? This is the first step. Gosh, Spence, Kelsey, I'm sure, who's going to be up there in the, watching. I'm sure they're going to do at least 12 cutaways tonight. That's my over-under of Miss Taylor Swift is my guess. So this is going to be interesting, man. They're a 3-point favorite. I'm speaking to Kansas City, and they better use that 3 points to their advantage because the home crowd is always good for a field goal, in my opinion, no matter where you are. I think 3 points most of the times in games like this, home field advantage comes into play. So here we go. Can't believe it's already time to play the NFL. I love it.
Bowler, if they win it this year, and Vegas tells us that if you're into such things, ultimately it is either Kansas City or San Francisco, and if you're taking another team, then you are taking a line that isn't all that favorable. Andy Reid has already won 3 Super Bowls. He's been to, I believe it's 6 conference championship games. If he gets his 4th Super Bowl and his third in a row, what will we I mean, we probably should start talking about Andy, that he's one of the best to ever do it anyway, but what would another do for Andy Reid?
Oh, my gosh, Spence, yes, you have to put him in the Don Shula, Chuck Noll, Bill Belichick conversation. See, this will be another great debate on the greatest NBA player of all time, and so then you start to say, who's the greatest coach of all time. But, he had success in Philly, but never really to the length or to the extreme of what's happened in Kansas City. He's got a quarterback in Mahomes. Fans love him. What I was surprised that he actually took to almost putting himself on television commercials, right, to kind of make him real. No one really knew much about Andy, just a big guy with the big burly mustache, and never really said much. But he kind of he personalized himself more, kind of became more beloved as he got older instead of kind of more of a grouch. And I think that's kind of elevated him too. I mean, television, social media does that to a lot of people. But, I think he's been able to handle the egos of Travis and Mahomes and others. And you know what? That's really and that's what Chuck Noll did. I worked with Merrill Hodge at ESPN for several years. And Merrill, terrific guy. But, he still writes about Chuck, just talking about everyone is the same. If that's what makes teams win, and no one ever steps outside the box too much. And you remember that little push, little altercation that Kelsey had with Andy, was it a couple of years ago now, I guess? And, they worked it out. But it's one of those things that I think is so important. And Belichick, how he was able to handle, Brady's success and still keep things in the parameters of team. And I think that's what makes him special. And that's hard to do, Spence. I mean, there's a lot of egos out there, more and more. And college football, same way. Nick Saban said, forget it, man. I'm not doing NIL. And I think he had a little trouble with Pat last week on ESPN Game Day, right? I mean, I don't know. But they like to do it differently, right? And I think Andy's a real special guy. Not just because he's the head coach of the Chiefs, but he showed that too when he was the head coach of Philadelphia. But he's even taken it to another level in KC.
You know what I'm realizing? He's been to 10 conference championships. I'm laughing because I thought he's been to 10 because he went to 4 in Philly. And, yeah. So his record speaks for itself, man. If they win 3 straight, that'll be something else. All right, NFL is back. Always exciting. We're going to end with college football. But before we get there, some Jazz news did become official today that Patty Mills, the ink is dry. He has signed his deal. So because it's Jazz news and because we cover the Jazz on this show and you're the TV voice of the Jazz, what are you hoping that this signing does? No one's expecting championships. No one's expecting, I don't think, even playoffs. No. But what are you hoping the Patty Mills signing looks like?
I think Patty Mills brings, again, what Pop still brings to San Antonio. I mean, Patty Mills is a part of that San Antonio history, and a great history, by the way. And I think talking to Justin Zanuck a couple of weeks ago when this whole thing started to kind of, flower and actually develop, I don't expect him to play much, Spence. I think, again, it's a guy who has experienced so much in this league and maybe one day is an assistant coach, maybe with the Jazz, maybe goes back to San Antonio. Maybe this is the first step. But I see him more as a reserve, obviously. Sure, he probably still wants to play, and he may, minutes, sparingly. But I think, again, it's more mentorship. That's my gut talking to Z, is that they need that type of personality and experience to show what it means to be a pro, right, to be a winner, and what it takes to work to achieve championship status. And you know what? It's hard to understand that. So they bring him in, and I think, Spence, that's basically what the job will be. I think he knows that, obviously, and embraces that. And we'll see. Is it emergencies playing? Somebody gets hurt? Possibly, but I don't see him in a regular rotation at all. But I think he's going to be a big part of the locker room.
Yep, we'll see. I mean, we're pretty football-centric right now, but we're going to blink, and Jazz games are going to be here. And training camp, too. It's right around the corner. Real quick, let me ask you a question. We had the new play-by-play voice of the Utah Hockey Club on yesterday, right? Matt McConnell, who I didn't know they were bringing up anybody from Arizona, but Matt, he called their games for 13 years. He's been doing pro hockey for 25 years. He's very good at what he does. Trav and the guys over there knocked it out of the park, and we're going to have Nick Olachek on coming up in a bit, who's going to be Matt's color commentator on the broadcast. I know it's not as in vogue right now as football, and it's not the Jazz. But from your perspective, Craig, I'll tell you what. I had a couple of people reach out yesterday and say they check the show podcast page every day to see if there's a hockey interview because they're really excited about it. I know several people that have bought season tickets, and I don't know how good they're going to be. It seems like they're making progress in the right direction, but what's your perspective on the excitement in the community for hockey, which is coming our way in a matter of days?
Yeah, first, welcome, Matt. I've talked to him a couple of times. He gave me a ring to get a feel about what Salt Lake is, and he knew I was a transplant from the Midwest, and I kind of broke it down. But I was so impressed with his interest and his love for hockey, man. I think hockey fans are in good hands with him and the rest of the crew. You know what, Spence? This is kind of, in my opinion, a real interesting year because the Jazz, they've always been the team, right? Well, you got the hill up on the hill and BYU, the team down south. I mean, you got the rivalry back. But, the Jazz have always been the big dog. And now you've got competition. The ownership group, same, right? Owns both franchises along with Real. But, I think the Jazz, this may possibly elevate their rebuild a little quicker. And because ticket sales competition, interest is high. You put something on the ice and something new, people are going to go and see what the hell this is all about. In the NHL, look, where do you go and watch guys throw the gloves off and get into it? It's fast. It's furious. I love the Stanley Cup playoffs. I grew up in Kansas City, so I didn't have much at all of hockey. A little bit down in Wichita, more indoor soccer and stuff like that. But I think it's going to go. This first year, look, they're going to give it a chance. But you know what? The ultimate goal is to win. And Ryan talks about can you win hockey, Stanley Cup and a Larry O'Brien trophy? Could you do that back to back or same year? Man, that's a stretch. A great accomplishment if you could. But Spence, I tell you, I think fans are. Everyone I run across, they want tickets. They're going to go, and they're going to try this out. How does that impact the Jazz? How does that impact advertising? How does that impact sponsorships? That, to me, is the most intriguing part. Does someone fall away and become more of a hockey fan? I'm speaking of ticket sales, right? And if they win and the Jazz don't, then you have competition. And it's going to be really interesting this first year on how popular and also, Spence, how much your station, how much 5, 4, 13, 2, the papers, I guess I should put the papers, how much do they put stock in hockey and the Jazz this year, and how do they break it up? It's going to be interesting. Maybe the winner steals the headlines, right? Or, if you lose, that's a headline too. But I think it's going to be interesting to see the balance of all this for the very first time.
Yeah, exciting times for any of us in the ecosystem of sports in Salt Lake. There's no doubt. All right, let's go over to BYU. We'll end with the Utes. So game one for BYU. Obviously, Southern Illinois. It's FBS, FCS. I will be honest, Craig, and we had Delane Fitzgerald on the show earlier, who's the head coach of SUU, who's a great guy and a great coach. I don't love the dynamic of these games. Now, the financial payouts, as Coach Fitzgerald kind of outlined, allows them to keep their athletic department alive. And who would actually ever be against that? I'm very much not. But it just makes it very hard to understand whether or not anything that we've seen so far is real. But we did find out that Jake Retzlaff is QB1, and we found out for 1 week he certainly looks the part. Now, they're in Dallas tomorrow night, Craig, take on SMU. They're an 11.5-point dog. Here's the thing. If they lose tomorrow night, they have to beat Wyoming on the road, and then they have to find 4 conference wins to go bowling. And you know their schedule. It's K-State, it's Oklahoma State, it's Arizona and Kansas, all at home, but all ranked. It's on the road at Utah and UCF. I don't see 4 conference wins, at least as of now. Excuse me. It feels like tomorrow's kind of a sneaky big game on the road at SMU. Give me your thoughts on where we stand with BYU.
I totally agree. with you. I was breaking down some numbers earlier. They're 2-0. They got off to a really quick start in the sense of schedule. And, you mentioned 11.5-point favorites against BYU. I didn't learn much about BYU last week except what you just said. They decided on a quarterback, and he performed, 348 yards. SMU in the first 2 games, which, again, you can't judge much about. And that's what you just said. I don't like the first 3 weeks, mostly. There's a few really big games that come up in week 2, maybe a couple on kickoff weekend. But, they've averaged 44 points in the first 2 games, and that's SMU. So it's hard to really judge on who you are, and I think coaches would admit that. I did find 2 highlights on Preston Stone, their quarterback. from SMU, kind of a burly guy, not really tall, 6'1", about 220. But, they're physical. And, what can BYU handle the physicality, and what are they like on the road? Spence, I tell you, you made a great point last week, I believe, on your show, one of your shows, is that BYU had been favored earlier by 3 touchdowns. It fell down to 14 last week. And I think it came up, or maybe it was Gordo who said, basically it just kind of gives you a telltale sign that there's not a lot of expectations in Provo for this BYU team. But if they let this one slip and go 1-1 and then have to go in on the road and you start getting into conference play, it could get ugly. And I think this is you just said it, sneaky important ball game for BYU, on the road in Dallas at SMU.
All right, before I set you loose, let's move over now to the University of Utah. Same dynamic, SUU rolls up here. And, the way I phrased it on Friday of last week after the game is I felt like that was just simply show up and do your job the way Coach Witt wants you to show up and do your job. There were a few things we can get nitpicky with. The O-line wasn't awesome. How many of those touchdown passes were just wide open? Coach Fitzgerald joined us earlier, as I mentioned, and said they made a bevy of mistakes. But ultimately, you get out of Dodge, one injury, Keenan Johnson, starting cornerback, which sucks that he's out for the year. They're based off of all of our PTSD from a year ago. One injury isn't the end of the world, even though you're gutted for the kid. They see Baylor and Dave Aranda Saturday 1:30. Now, Dave is calling plays for his defense. He hasn't done that in a few years. Utah is a healthy 15-point favorite. The more and more I dig into the matchup, Craig, it feels like it's a really good one for Utah. And I would imagine that a lot of these guys are anxious. It's on Fox. It's 1:30 here, so 3:30 in the East. A lot of eyes on that game. I would imagine, even though they stayed clean week one, there's probably a lot of anticipation to kind of show who they are on a bigger stage. Give me your thoughts on the Utes before I set you loose.
Yeah, no, this is a good stage for Utah. Nationally ranked Baylor. When I was calling games, Spence, you remember a guy named Art Briles. I think I talked to you about this last week. And, this team, this whole thing at Baylor back in the day was Art always told us, we're playing above the numbers, and they just passed the hell out of the ball. That's what they did. And, have you ever heard of Tarleton State? I mean, I know they're out of Texas, but, again, that kind of shows you who they beat last week, 45-3. I mean, it's hard to get a feel, right? But Utah did the same thing with the big win last week, and now you get a chance to see two good teams, or at least we know what Utah's about, or a good taste of it. But what is Baylor? Baylor used to be, I mean, they that was a serious, serious football program at a time, and then things kind of fell apart. Briles had issues, and they made the change, and now I'm just anxious to see what they do. How balanced is Baylor? Because they ran the ball, I know, a lot last week, and this team has been known for passing in the past. Maybe that's changed, and the defensive calls, you said, the head coach has taken over that. So, again, another weekend where we get much more information. You have to hope Cam stays in the pocket, doesn't take chances. He took 2 hard pops, especially the second one last week. And you mentioned he walked off the field with 5 touchdowns in his pocket and over 250 in the air. So I think fans got what they wanted. You make a great point. Get off the field healthy, get a win, and now you get a real taste of who you are at Rice-Eccles on Saturday afternoon. I think it's going to rock. You just hope guys get off the field healthy, and you get a chance to see who Utah is. Baylor should be a good test, and I'm anxious to see if they try to blitz Cam, test his mobility, which is I think a lot of teams will do in the first half of the season, and just see what Cam's all about.
So, Bowler, I was just given some very exciting breaking news. So before I set you loose, we have tickets to give away on the show. To an upcoming Def Leppard concert.
No.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
So what I need
coming up next week.
Yep. What I need to know, Craig, is what is your favorite Def Leppard song? And then we're going to ask the listeners to text in later on.
All right, man. I tell you, there's multiple. Pour Some Sugar on Me is there, but I tell you what. Sometimes when I'm in a mood, I hear the long version, and I think this has to be part of the person who wins. The long version, which is about 8.5 to 9 minutes long. Rocket.
So the long version of Pour Some Sugar on Me.
No, long version of Rocket.
Oh, of Rocket. I thought you said Rock It, like listen to the song.
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
Rocket. Yeah, Rocket. I love it. Porter, I don't know if you can find it, play it when I get out of here, but it's just got, our buddy the drummer.
Oh dear. Don't do it. This is your fault. This is your fault. I was not going to say anything. You're egging me on.
He rocks it on the drums, and it's really there we go.
There it is. So this is the long version of Rocket, and you're saying the drummer is the star of this song, right?
Exactly right, man. There's about a 3-minute solo that he just kind of rocks it, no pun intended.
After he's done with the solo, does he give the lead singer a high 10? Just kidding. All right, let's get out of here. That's it. It's your fault. I wasn't going to do it.
I'm sorry, man. I brought it up, man. But long version of Rocket, Def Leppard. Hand those tickets out, Spence, man. It's great talking to you. It's going to be a fun football weekend. We'll know more in about 48 hours.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Craig. Have a good one.
Thanks, pal.
Now I feel bad. But I didn't tell my Def Leppard joke on air because that's in poor taste.
That one is in poor taste.
I know.
Just to be clear.
It is. All right. Bowler, big show, big hour here on the program. Typically, we get Craig and Gordon live in studio. Some traveling situations today did not allow that. Gordon's going to join us coming up at 4 o'clock today, and this is brought to you by Big O Tires. You can get our Healthy Car Special for $59.95, which includes a conventional oil change, checks on alignments, brakes, batteries, and more. We want to keep our customers safe on the road and help them save money on tires and service. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about the Def Leppard joke. There's always something on sale at Big O Tires. Stop into any of our 50 locally owned and operated locations in Utah or schedule an appointment online. It's in such poor taste. We know tires and service can be an unexpected expense, so Big O Tires wants to make sure you have financing options to keep your vehicle in tip-top shape. We have no credit needed financing options to fit any budget and any situation. Big O Tires has over 50 locally owned and operated locations in Utah. Visit bigotires.com to find a location near you. I feel a little bit like Michael Scott right now, where if he doesn't sing the Billy Joel song, he'll have a headache.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm showing growth.
I think listeners have probably heard it.
Yeah, I know. It's just such poor taste. Anyway, we're going to do a little hockey coming up next. Nick Olachek is the new color commentator on the broadcast. Back to college football with Gordon Monson, and we'll go from there on a Thursday. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. We are going to bring on Gordon Monson today. Typically, he's in studio with Bowler on Thursdays, but we have a little bit of a travel situation. So we'll get back to some college football, some NFL as pro football is back tonight, and then we'll go from there on this Thursday afternoon. But yesterday was fun to catch up and get to know the new play-by-play voice of the Utah Hockey Club, Matt McConnell. And our next guest is going to join the hockey broadcast as an analyst, and he already has won 2 Emmys in his career. So it's a pleasure to welcome in on this Thursday afternoon the new analyst on the broadcast, Nick Olachek, on the Drive on a Thursday. Nick, how are you, buddy?
Hey, Spence. Thanks a lot for having me, man. I am Cloud 10. If there is such a thing as Cloud 10, I'm certainly on it. To be part of the Utah Hockey Club and to be able to call Salt Lake City home is an incredibly exciting thing, and just to get the sense of how excited everybody is around the city and fans all around the globe, really. It's an incredible time, and really honored to be part of it. Very thankful and happy to be having my maiden voyage with you here today.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to catch up with Matt yesterday, so I'm going to kind of do the same thing with you, Nick, that I did with him, and let's get to know you a little bit. I was reading up. You've won a couple of Emmys. I read some pieces that were written after you left Seattle. Folks were very, very sad. So you were beloved up in Seattle. So obviously you're good at this. You've been doing it for a while. But let's get to know your background, your story, and ultimately what led you here to Salt Lake City.
Yeah, well, thanks, Spence. I appreciate you giving me the platform here to be able to talk a little bit about myself, which is not something I do very often, trust me. But no, I think first off, I do want to just give a huge thank you to the Seattle Kraken for giving me an incredible opportunity to be part of something. I actually joined them in their second year of existence, and was really able to see how things go as far as formulating a franchise and the right way to do things. And they have certainly, they have a big place in my heart. And so a huge thank you to their ownership group and everybody involved there. And now look, it's such an exciting opportunity to be part of something new. And from the very top of Ryan and Ashley Smith on down, president of hockey operations and team president Chris Armstrong and Bill Armstrong, the GM, and everybody involved in the front office, Travis Henderson. I mean, everyone has just been so kind and incredible to me. And it's not only an exciting job opportunity, but when you go to a place and you're going to be surrounded by well-intentioned people that want one thing, that's the best thing for the team, AKA the city, that's when you're getting into something really special. So honored to be here. But a little bit about me, grew up playing hockey, started playing when I was very young. My mom says I came out of the womb with a stick in my hand. I don't know how that's possible, but supposedly that was the story, and played until Division I in college. I left college early to pursue my broadcasting career, which even when I was playing was always my true passion and what I felt like I was meant to do, to be able to teach the game, explain the game, break it down, and do it in an entertaining way where I think it draws people in and makes people want to watch and learn. And those are the two things that go into every broadcast. I want to teach someone something about the greatest sport in the world, or to have entertained them, right? Because people watch hockey, people watch sports for a lot of different reasons. So after I left school, I linked up with a minor league team, the Indy Fuel in the ECHL down in Indianapolis. And for 3 seasons, every weekend during the season, would make that great 4-hour drive down the 2-lane highway through cornfields, going from Chicago to Indy, and loved every moment of that. So we'd do that on the weekends, and then during the week would work at the local TV affiliate in the tape room, cutting highlights and working in production trucks. And then after that, had an opportunity to work for the Chicago Blackhawks and do games for them there on the radio side. And then Seattle came calling 2 years later, and had a great 2-year run here in Seattle. So I am as passionate about the game of hockey as I am anything in my life. It's given me and my family everything that we have, and to be able to be part of it at the highest level is not only an honor, but it's extremely exciting. And to be joining Utah Hockey Club, it's a phenomenal team, and everybody's been so wonderful so far.
So, Nick, just for some background, I'm a transplant myself of sorts. I grew up in the Northeast, and hockey, certainly where I grew up, is life in a way that it just isn't out here, although the game certainly is spread. And my father spent a number of years with the Gardens, so naturally I was a Rangers fan. So You read that Dominic Moore is joining the booth. Obviously, as a former Ranger, I'm familiar with him. How will this dynamic work with a 3-person booth? I mean, have you guys got that far in your preparation?
Yeah, so there's still a lot of things that we're hammering out, and I think the greatest thing about that, Spence, is the whole broadcast team. We want one thing, and that's to put on the best possible show for Utah Hockey Club fans, and to make them want to tune in to, of course, first and foremost, watch the team be competitive, which I believe that they are going to be this year, playing important games towards the end of the season. But for also them to tune in, for the great fans to tune in and to want to learn and to want to be entertained and to want to hear the stories about the players. And so it's incredible to be able to join a broadcast team with Matty McConnell, who's been calling games for almost 30 years, and Dominic Moore. I mean, his career speaks for itself, and a guy that I actually had a chance to work with at the NBC studios when he was on air, and I was working in a behind-the-scenes role, cutting highlights and cutting clips and tapes for him, which is really cool to come full circle with him, and he's just an incredible guy. And then being able to work with Kim in the studio and Sarah as the team reporter. Like, I think we have a really talented group, which you have to put talented people in spots so that way the fans can get the best product possible, but just such great people to work with as well. And so we'll see how everything shakes out. But the one thing I know for sure is that I am ecstatic and can't wait to get started working with them and talking about a team that is going to be very exciting to watch this year.
So let's get over to that. Let's talk about this team. And, Nick, I got a kick out of the opening kind of press conference announcement at the Delta Center when all the players were getting the crowd riled up and the chants of spicy tuna were very, very loud. And Bill Armstrong takes the mic. He's like, everyone knows we're rebuilding, right? Like, let's just slow down a little bit. But to get to know some of these players, I mean, it's a really exciting roster full of youth, and then we'll get to some offseason stuff. But from a 30,000-foot macro viewpoint, what should our community know about this new team that starts playing in a matter of days?
Well, I think the combination of youth and skill is a really special thing on this roster. And youth and skill is nothing without work ethic, right? And that's instituted by head coach Andre Tourigny, a.k.a. Bear. There are certain non-negotiables that are going to be the case for these players, where you are going to back check, you are going to play defense, you are going to stay on the right side of the puck, meaning that if it's a situation where the other player has it, you want to stay between your goaltender and that player, so that way there's not a free rein right to your goalie. But looking at this roster, you talk about skill. I think you have a great balance of guys that have been in the league for a long time that have had success. And I look at a guy like Nick Schmaltz, who is skillful, plays the right way, goes to the hard areas, and a guy that's going to be able to make plays happen sometimes when there's not a lot going on. And there are going to be those games where it's tough to score. Just like everybody out there, there are days where you get out of bed and you're like, it's kind of be hard to go to work today, but you still go to work and you still make things happen. Nick Schmaltz is the type of guy that's been around for a long time and I think has the ability to be extremely productive as he has been in his career. And, of course, you got to look at a guy like Clayton Keller, too, who is the driver of offense, the creator-in-chief, so to speak, for this team, and a guy that has an incredible story, which we're going to dig plenty into this season and allow the Utah Hockey Club fans in on the great career that he's had so far, multiple All-Star appearances. Like, he is a stud in this league and the type of guy that I think is going to be the main contributor of the offense. And then you go to some younger guys who either had really budding years last year and are on the cusp of doing great things. I look at a guy like Logan Cooley. I mean, the fans are going to be mesmerized, and he is edge-of-your-seat material when the puck is on his stick, and how he's able to work his way past defenders and make plays happen. I look at a guy like Dylan Gunther, too, who might have the best shot on this team. Again, it's a pure goal scorer. So you can go up and down the list of the forward group and just be wowed by the characteristics and qualities that each of these players bring. And then quickly, Spence, you look at the decor. And I know we're going to get into the offseason acquisitions, but just to talk about it from 30,000 feet, as you had asked, size, skill, and mobility. Those are the three qualities I look at for competitive teams and teams that that want to be competitive every night and be playing competitive games towards the end of the season. So the acquisitions in the offseason, which we'll get into, were great by General Manager Bill Armstrong, and I think really sends the message that not only is this D-core going to be able to produce offensively, but they're going to be extremely hard to play against early in the season and late.
So let's move over now into the space of the offseason acquisitions. And, of course, we'll start with Mikhail Sergachev. And I think that signaled a lot of intent. And certainly this is an ownership group that's ready to spend, and a front office and a general manager that understands what the process is. And Bill has talked about not skipping steps and doing this brick by brick. But you bring in a Stanley Cup winner, a young defenseman on a long-term deal. What should we know about this new defenseman, Mikhail Sergachev?
He is going to do everything. And when you are paying a defenseman a lot of money, that's what you're hoping, is that they're not only going to be elite, but elite in a lot of different areas. And when I look at a guy like Mikhail Sergachev, he's the type of guy that's going to play on the power play. He's going to play on the penalty kill. He's going to play when you're down a goal. He's going to play when you're up a goal. Like, he really is the ultimate defenseman back there. And all the while, he's got some great size at 6'3", and he can get up the ice. He can skate. He's got real good mobility too. And oh, by the way, all of that wrapped into a beautiful package of a two-time Stanley Cup champion. So a guy that knows what it takes to win, not just in the playoffs, but he knows the grind of the NHL regular season and then beyond that. So look, I think this is a great fit, top pairing guy for sure, and a type of player who really doesn't have a weakness. He's going to run you through the glass when the opportunity presents itself and be physical. But more importantly, he's going to eat up a lot of important minutes. And he is the type of guy that you're going to want out on the ice, whether you're up a goal, whether you're down a goal. So a great pickup. Yeah, General Manager Bill Armstrong had to pay a price for it, giving away a couple of prospects and draft picks, and that's okay because it makes the defense core even better now. And I think that now all of a sudden complements the skilled forward group, because now you got a group of defenders that are going to defend hard consistently throughout the course of the season.
So let's stick with that area, talk about the defensive group. And Ian Cole is brought in. And, Nick, I'm a believer in adults in a locker room. I've seen it throughout the course of my career, any sport, any level, when you can bring in a guy. He's 35 years old, and it wasn't one of the signings that caught a ton of attention, but a grown-up who's been around. I think it's about $3 million, so it's a good deal. What should we know about this veteran presence in the locker room, Ian Cole?
So when you've got a lot of young kids that are on the cusp of becoming greats, I am such a firm believer that you have to have great veterans, right? You've got to have a coach that's going to develop, that's going to teach, and a management team that wants the very best for their players, of course, but is going to have that balance of patience and also putting these players in spots to succeed, which is seemingly exactly what this organization, the Utah Hockey Club, has done. But a guy like Ian Cole, look, another two-time Stanley Cup champion, a guy that's played in the league a long time. And look, there's going to be peaks and valleys throughout the course of a season. There's going to be winning streaks. There's going to be losing streaks. And for a lot of these young players, they haven't experienced that at the National Hockey League level. And the one thing I think that separates the good players from the great players, and the players that play for 3 or 4 years opposed to the players that play for 10 or 12, is the consistency of play that they bring every game. And look, not every player is a goal scorer. Not every player is a Liam O'Brien who's going to throw his weight around and play an integral role in that way. But how consistent can you be at your role? And when you have older guys that come in and that have won, and older guys that have played in the league a long time, and they know what it takes not just to hang around, but to be impactful players like Ian Cole has been on the teams that he's played in the past, and I see him doing very much the same here. It may not just be the on-ice play, but I think even more so the off-ice of letting these younger guys know, okay, this is how you help take care of your body. This is the way that you need to be on the road, getting your sleep and making sure it's the proper nutrition too. So I think you can't ever have enough veteran experience, because it's able to keep everybody under control and under wrap when things go a little haywire. And maybe you go on a couple of game losing streak, or maybe it's the course of a game where you give up 2 goals in 30 seconds. It's okay, well, now we're going to look to the veteran guys to be able to set us straight and help keep the rig on the road. So I think another great pickup is Ian Cole, and a guy I think that is going to play a vital impact on this roster, not just on the ice, but I think even more importantly off the ice for the younger guys in the dressing room.
According to the numbers I have in front of me, Nick, there's still about $12.7 million in space. Do you think they're done? I mean, look, the first preseason game is like tomorrow. It's in a few weeks, and then the Blackhawks are in town on the 8th, but they do have space to make another move. Do you think we see anything get done?
Well, look, you'd rather have space than be really uptight against it. And I think when you look at the roster right now and you look at the forward group, I think this team looks really great where they're at. Plenty of skill, some real good bodies that are going to be able to get in on the forecheck and bang. When you look at the bottom 6, the second 2 lines, especially that 4th line, you got Jack McBain, Kevin Stenlund, and we'll see how all the lines fill out and where these players fill in. And of course, there's going to be some upward movement of a couple of these guys. But honestly, Spence, if I'm being completely honest, man, I like where this roster is at right now. And if Bill Armstrong wants to go out and he can find another piece, either a complementary piece or a stud, we're going to trust in Bill and his staff and Chris Armstrong and know that they're going to go out and do the very best they can, but also knowing that, hey, maybe there are going to be opportunities later in the season where you keep your space now and you keep it free open should the season go the way that we all hope it will and be playing competitive games as the season goes on. So it's always great to have space, always great to have a little money in your pocket. And I think the way that the roster is constructed right now with the blend between young guys and older veterans, I think it complements extremely well, and this team is destined for some really nice things this year.
So is it reasonable, Nick, to expect, if not a playoff berth, be right there? I mean, I don't want to set expectations in the marketplace out of whack, but, you referenced Coach Torney, who has been able to find a way to keep them competitive, even though he was basically coaching with one hand behind his back, and that ownership chaos is gone. So excited to see what he can do with a roster that's a year older and a bunch of new additions. Is it reasonable to expect or hope that the playoffs could be in the cards this year?
Well, something I hope that everybody else listening and all Utah hockey fans can appreciate as much as I do is the transparency of the organization. And that starts with Smith Entertainment Group at the very top and on down, is that the team, the organization, the executives, and the leaders have been very clear that this team is still in rebuild mode. And it doesn't mean you can't be competitive. So, when I honestly look at this roster, and even before I was fortunate enough to join the Utah Hockey Club, I look at this roster and I go, I mean, that's a really competitive team. And there is no reason why this team shouldn't be playing competitive games as the season goes along. And like I said, everybody beware. It's an 82-game regular season in the National Hockey League. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, there's going to be 5-game win streaks, there's going to be 6-game losing streaks. That's just the way that it goes. So, again, looking at this roster, the tightness and the cohesion of the group, I think that they can be extremely competitive this season, and a team that, most importantly, is going to be a team that all of Utah and all of Utah's fans are going to be proud of on the ice, because skill aside, flashy numbers aside, big names aside, this is going to be a team that goes out on the ice every night and works and has great work ethic to be able to make everybody proud.
I tried to get him to guarantee a playoff spot, gang. It did not work. So well done, Nick. I can tell you've done this before. Hey, before I set you loose, I asked Matt this question as well. Let's have a little fun. So every team needs a rival, right? And it feels like the answer is Colorado, but they're awesome, and they're going to be awesome again this year. Our soccer club has kind of a built-in rivalry with the Colorado club. There's like this quasi-Jazz Nuggets thing simply because we're in the same region. Is it Colorado? Like, who's going to be our rival, or is it just something that will manifest over time?
I think it has to be something that manifests over time, to be honest, Spence. And you could make geographical reasons for rivalries, and certainly those are real in the hockey world and, of course, other sports too. But the vine I will die on and the hill I will die on is rivalries are created in the playoffs. And so when inevitably this team does make the playoffs, the team that they have that 7-game grueling series with, and it could very well be a team close by, I think that's where the true rivalries are going to be developed, because you look at the past, You look, go all the way back to original six teams that play each other a lot. They play each other consistently, and you never know the events that happen in those games, which could create a little bit of a rivalry. But I'm such a big believer is that the intensity, and there is nothing better than the playoffs in the National Hockey League. That will be the ultimate determination of who the biggest rivalry of the Utah Hockey Club is. But the good news is that they're playing in an extremely competitive division. And so later in the season, when I think this team is going to be playing competitive games, there's going to be some great matchups amongst the other teams in the Central Division.
Well, can't wait to get it started. I've been a hockey guy forever, been in the market for about 20, 25 years. So it's going to be a lot of fun. You always have a home here, Nick. I appreciate your time. And if you need restaurant recommendations or whatever it is, please hit us up, okay?
Spence, you got a deal. Thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to chatting a lot and keep up the great work.
All right, there he is. Nick Olchek. He's one of the new analysts on the hockey broadcast team. Why are all these hockey guys so nice? They're like the nicest people. Have you noticed this?
I have.
Yeah, they're nice people. Anyway, if you missed that, some good stuff from Nick. We caught up with Matt yesterday, Matt McConnell's new play-by-play voice. So we're going to get you guys ready for hockey season. We are going to cover this hockey team. And, of course, we'll cover everything that happens here locally. That's what we do during this program for 4 hours every afternoon. We will get back to some college football. I know. You guys want it. Pro football starts tonight as well. We'll get back to that. Gordon Monson is going to join us coming up next. But let's welcome in Jeff, my buddy Jeff from Farmer and Chemist here on a Thursday. Jeff, happy Thursday, man. How are we doing?
Happy Thursday. So good. How are you?
I'm well. I appreciate your time. All right, let's start with what I use your products for. I use your products for sleep, okay? You hooked me up with some gummies because I'm not a great sleeper, but I don't like sleep medication because I wake up feeling super tired. I got to say, I was a little bit skeptical, but the gummies put you to sleep, and you don't wake up feeling like you have a headache or hungover at all. So let's start there. For people that have trouble sleeping, how can you help them at Farmer and Chemist?
Yeah, there's a few things, but either in terms of what you can use a tincture or gummies, but the key is what somebody uses. And what actually is really good for sleep and anxiety is a cannabinoid called CBN. And we combine that with CBD in certain products. And again, that's what we recommend for sleep and anxiety. And we have different combinations for different things.
All right, let's move over now to folks that may have some muscle soreness, some physical pain. Yeah. I say this all the time. Let's get you off the sleep meds. Well, let's get you off the pain meds, too. I mean, that's one of the miracles about what this technology can do. So for our listeners that may have some physical pain, how can you help them?
Yeah, and that's where another cannabinoid called CBG comes into play. So similar to putting CBN with CBD, we do the same thing with CBG. So we combine CBG with CBD, and it's really good for pain and inflammation. And so you can either use it topically if you have like a tennis elbow or something like that, but if you have arthritis or other more systemic type pain, then tinctures and gummies work really well, and it's a fantastic anti-inflammatory. And there's very little side effects. You don't become dependent on it. It does have some drug interactions. They're very few, and that's why we always recommend that somebody who is using these products talk to a pharmacist.
Which is where I will end with you. How can they get a hold of you to get a consultation, get a better feel and understanding about what your products can do for them?
Yeah. So we have a store right in the center of the valley in Midvale. It's a really cool store. It's an old pharmacy. You can either come in and talk to somebody, or we do a lot of phone consultations. And so we'd like to spend some time figuring out what is going on with people, try to find the right route of administration, the right product, dial something in for them. And we're pretty honest. We'll talk about where these things work, but also where they don't work. But it really is finding the right product that has high enough quantities to work and finding the right combination.
Jeff, thank you, sir. Have a great week, and we'll chat again soon.
All right, thanks.
All right, there he is, Jeff from Farmer and Chemist. Check out their spot, Historic Main Street in Midvale, or online at farmerandchemist.com. Time now to give away a $25 gift certificate to Farmer and Chemist, which goes a long way with their products. Okay, it goes a long way. 877-353-0700. Text in. Here's what we'll do. Craig Bowlerjack joined us earlier. And we're also giving away 2 tickets to Def Leppard, which led to an unfortunate joke on air. So text in Craig's favorite Def Leppard song, and the first person to text in, we will send you to Def Leppard. The second person to text in, we'll send you to Farmer and Chemist. Although I'm a life coach, I don't feel like answering any questions today. Just gassed from, making America great again and talking to people to make sure that their lives their lives are taken care of. So I don't feel like doing that today. So let us know what Bowler's favorite Def Leppard song is. We'll send you to see Def Leppard, then we'll send you to Farmer and Chemist with $25 in your pocket. All right, 2 hours down, 2 hours to go. Gordon Monson is our guest coming up next right here on ESPN 700. All right, the big show, big hour, typically on a Thursday with Craig Bowlerjack and Gordon Monson live in studio, continues. But Bowler joined us over the phone earlier today. But live in studio, my goodness gracious, is where I find my guy, longtime columnist from the Salt Lake Tribune, Gordon Monson. Thanks for coming in, man. How you doing?
Oh, some of us are dedicated to what we do here with you, Spence.
A really good point.
Us just, where the
He
heck is
claims he's on vacation,
Oh,
but I don't know.
okay. Well, his life's going to get real busy real quick. By the way, I have a problem.
Right off the top,
You're
let's
right.
let's get into it.
I think I have, and I've talked to you about this before, but I have a Beatles problem.
What could be problematic about
My
your?
wife thinks I'm obsessed.
Well, you are.
I listen
You've
to
always
Beatles
been obsessed.
music every day.
I know you do. But that's not a new thing, right?
No, but it's getting worse.
Well, that's what happens as we age, right? Things
You
don't
get a little
reverse.
more.
Yeah, they just get a little
And
worse.
you need more and more.
If Lisa's biggest beef with actually no, let me ask you, what is Lisa's biggest beef? Because it's not the Beatles.
Biggest beef.
You snore?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
I do every once in a while. She really doesn't bring that up with me much. But I do. I'm a typical guy. I love my wife. She seems to tolerate me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's things I do that kind of bug her sometimes.
Yeah, I feel for years Lisa's kind of been like, this is the deal. So, I'm just going to ride it out.
She gave up. If anything happened to me, what would happen, Spence?
I'd call her tomorrow. That's a running joke that comes from like the first couple of weeks we did the show. I saw her at a jazz
gave her
game.
the full frontal hug.
I
that
just
time.
gave her a normal hug. It was a normal hug, and you
was-
made a thing of it. You made an unnecessary. It was a normal hug.
It was kind of a two-breasted kind of
All
hug.
right, Gordon. She squeezed me very tight. There's no doubt about
Well,
that.
she is very fond of you.
I love Lisa. But if the biggest issue is you're listening to the Beatles a lot, I think you guys are doing all right.
But not only that, I'm watching the documentaries and all.
Which was awesome. Did you see the one on Disney? That's the one I watched.
Yeah.
that was
I
insanely
watched
good.
every hour. What was that, like 6, 7, 8 hours?
Something like that, yeah.
I watched it twice. And I watch all the stuff on like YouTube about the Beatles. I do. I admit I've got a problem. I've got to curtail this a little bit because it goes beyond just the listening.
Well, it could be crack. It's better that it's the Beatles. If your problem is the Beatles and not heroin, I think you're fine. It could be a lot worse. You're freelining the Beatles on YouTube.
Okay, so if you have a musical problem, Spence, and I know some of your tastes from all the years we did shows together, has it changed? What would be your musical addiction?
So Porter and I have this in common. My biggest issue is that when I find a song or a band I love, I kill it. I kill it. I listen to them for weeks. I listen to the same song over and over for weeks. And so I just got out of a Lord Huron phase. I was in it for like 6 months, and I listened to everything they ever did. And you're going to be surprised because you know me as a non-country fan.
All right.
Zach Bryan.
Oh.
Really good.
Wow.
Now, the problem is there's too many like Luke Bryan, Zach Brown, Luke. Like they're all kind of the same little hemisphere, but Zach Bryan, not Luke Bryan or Luke Combs or whatever. Porter knows all of them. Zach Bryan's the one that I've been listening to lately, and he's very talented. He's really good.
Okay. My wife is she kind of likes Post Malone.
All right. What's not to like? He's
Taylor
local.
Swift. Yeah, he's gone country here though, right?
He's versatile, right? That's the thing. He can do a little bit of everything.
Anyway, so your days of the Dave Matthews Band and all that—that's.
Oh no, that's still very much a thing,
okay.
and I get a lot of grief for it. There's this video going around of Instagram of Dave dancing. And the caption is, Dave does not have any song that he needs to dance like this. I've probably had 30 people send that to me. I'm still known as the Dave guy, but it probably comprises about 5% of my listening these days.
What about Tribe?
Love me some Tribe, always will,
You always have been fond of that.
Yep, love me some hip-hop. Not only did you show up here today, Gordon, a little birdie tells me you showed up last weekend at both Rice Eccles and Lavelle Edwards Stadium. Did anybody say to you, nice of you to show up?
Yes.
Okay.
I get that. I get that all the time.
I'm sure you do.
Porter was just one of the many.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, yeah, it was. I don't show up at those things quite as much as I used to. I always keep up to what's going on and talk to the coach and talk to folks. But yeah, it was good to be back in the press boxes. Look, I'll say the University of Utah has the one of the best press boxes I've ever been in. It is fantastic what they do there.
How's the food?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
BYU gets the nod with the food,
Yep.
but their press box just isn't quite up to snuff. For one thing, you should see the bathroom.
At BYU or Utah?
At BYU.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's like one toilet in there.
That's not okay. With the media group we have here, I don't need to be rolling into the bathroom after Dana Green just took a deuce. Like, let's have options here. All due respect to my guy Dana.
Indeed. And at Utah, you got plenty of space. You got a lot of options. Everything is good. So I don't know. I've been thinking about writing something on a comparison between Lavelle Edwards and Rice Eccles.
And press box toilets specifically.
That's our problem. It's not anybody else's or blessing. But, the overall atmosphere. I was impressed both places.
Good.
I mean, how can you not
Yeah,
be?
yeah.
It's fantastic. Of course, Rice Eccles is building this reputation as the most difficult place to visit for opponents. And the record holds up pretty good in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I think I might do a comparative in that regard. Do you have an opinion on that?
I love both of them. I don't make the drive down to BYU as much as I used to because it's like trying to get in and out of Afghanistan with traffic. I'm over like a 5-hour commitment to go watch a basketball or football game. But I used to go down to BYU a lot more than I do now. My grandfather was a Cougar Club member. We'd go down to BYU games every year. And it's awesome. Once you get down there, it's just the drive for me. And I live on campus. So Rice Eccles, I walk over there. And I don't typically go up into the press box because I like to sit with friends watching the game. Mm-hmm. And I like to walk around our tailgate and then kind of walk around and say hi to old college friends or whatever. But I'll tell you, whenever I go in there, Gordon, and I know listeners get sick of me being the historical Utah, Prism guy, it blows me away. What Rice Eccles looks and sounds like in 2024 juxtaposed to 1998 when I was there in school. Uh-huh. I never thought we would have a football experience like we have here, and I think it's really cool.
It is. And, the tailgating, obviously, at Utah is far superior. I will say this, the setting down in Provo. I remember Keith Jackson said that was
beautiful.
The most beautiful football setting that Keith Jackson. I had that conversation with him down in L.A. when he lived down there, and I was at a golf tournament, and he was there, and I talked to him about that, and he just couldn't stop singing the praises of what was then, I guess, Cougar Stadium back then, before Lavelle. It was named after Lavelle. But I will say this, BYU also has far superior parking for the media.
Here we go.
Up at Rice Eccles.
Here we go.
You're going to hike in from Egypt.
Jordy, I hope you're listening. Hey, will you get Paul Kirk on the line? I was hoping we would get a Monson media diatribe.
I know that your listeners don't care about this, but, man, I'm an old man now. I'm hiking halfway around the world to get in there. I was sweating. And then getting back up, you got to get – I feel sorry for University of Utah students who have to hoof it around that campus.
I think they're okay they're like 18.
Yeah.
Nobody's proud of you for getting to class because you had to walk down the sidewalk. But no, I love the Monson media complaining because I'll never forget once upon a time we were tasked with our afternoon show. Utah was playing on a Thursday night. And so because our show at the time, I believe, was 3 to 7 technically, they were like, you guys are going to do our Utah pregame show. And they were able to get us up on campus. I don't know how this station felt about it at the time because we were at the other station. So the plan was, Ron McBride was set to come by to do the first segment with us from 3 to 3:30, and then we were set to take it from 3:30 to kick.
Yes. Oh, well.
Ron McBride comes by. Coach Matt comes by. His awesome segment 1. I get up to go to the restroom. As I come back to sit down, I look down the way, and you were walking to the stadium to get there early so you could get the best seats, leaving me to do 3 hours solo
Wasn't that bad,
of
really?
Utah pregame, which I guess trained me to do 4 hours solo every day now. So maybe I should just say thank you.
Well, I've got some regrets, I guess.
Oh, we all do.
I deserted you. I remember I got up to leave, and Max looking at me and says, "If you're leaving, I'm leaving." So I left you.
I just
by
looked
yourself.
down as I come back, and 2 bodies are disappearing on the horizon, walking into the stadium.
I thought you were going to start ripping me for my complaints at the old Rio Tinto, whatever.
Oh, we could do that. We could also do the fact that for about 4 or 5 years, I witnessed you and Cragthorpe splitting assignments, and somehow you got L.A. and Berkeley and Eugene, and Crag's got, Pullman and all of the horrible assignments. We could also go down that road if you wanted to.
I apologize, Kurt. I really do. Not really. I mean, I didn't want to go to some of. I mean, I've been to all those places, but I want to go back to some of them. But I remember they had at the stadium down there in Sandy, they have the outdoor press facility.
And you get cold easily.
And it was freezing. Mm-hmm. And I just said, I just don't know how they can play soccer with frozen balls.
Yeah, I know, Gordon. I know the line. Then they took your credential. Isn't that what happened?
Is that related?
Oh, I don't know. Anyway. But yes, I remember the open air press box did not land very, and quite frankly, it is cold. I'm not saying you're wrong. So anyway, okay.
I remember one quick side.
Yeah, go ahead.
Joe Baird was the sports editor at that time, and Joe never complained about anything I wrote, except for that game when it was all about me and my freezing condition. He said, maybe the reader doesn't really care whether you're suffering or not.
It might be a fair point. And in fact, you know this being a public personality, the readers might rejoice that you weren't all that comfortable. Unfortunately, that's how it goes.
However, and it also, because you know me, Spence, I'm sort of I'm a soccer aficionado.
Well, yeah, for sure, certainly.
I like
a genius is what comes to mind.
I like to focus on the game.
Yeah.
And I don't like to be disturbed by things that get in my way.
Right, right.
And when the icicles were growing down in front of me, I had a hard time, focusing.
How about late kicks? Where are you at these days with late kicks? Like Utah State, USC, I believe, is 8:30 Mountain Time on Saturday. How do you like covering games that kick off that late?
I don't like. Well, now it doesn't matter because we don't have deadlines like we used to.
There's no deadlines.
Yeah. Well, not for me.
All right. I hope Aaron is listening. I hope Aaron Falk is listening. We had Aaron on just a couple of days ago. I hope he's listening.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think that's inconvenient for fans. So I don't like fans being inconvenient.
Oh, that's what it is. It's about the fans.
Of course.
All right. Away from
man of the people.
Oh, certainly. Away from the press box experience.
Okay.
Let's start here. I believe you used to call this legal prostitution. Hold on, folks. I'm going to get there. When FCS,
thank you, man.
When FCS FBS schools, play against each other, and we had Delane Fitzgerald on the show earlier, the head coach of SUU, and he was very honest. He said we're lucky that we came out healthy, not one injury, because the concern is we know what we're going into against Utah as SUU. We came down with a check that will keep our athletic department alive. They have UTEP on Saturday. It's the same dynamic. FCS, FBS, here's a check. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. I am sympathetic to the plight of these smaller schools. But from a media standpoint, from a fan standpoint, from a football quality standpoint, I cannot wait for these games to go away. Give me your thoughts.
And from a player standpoint, because it doesn't do them any favors. The players are out there. The players from SUU, they're out there getting kicked around the field. And they are paying the price for the cost that the university is benefiting from. And I find that unfortunate. The other thing is, though, it's kind of a waste of time for everybody because what do you learn? What do you know about Utah football now that you didn't know before? Oh, Cam Rising's good. Oh, Brant Keithy, he can catch a ball. Now, the mustard man was something new to me.
All right. Is that going to stick?
I don't know.
Okay.
Probably not.
That's the third time you've tried on the show.
Yeah,
so.
I know. But he had 150 receiving yards in that game. And so what do you know now about Utah? I guess they sort of got their feet wet and they worked up a sweat, and it was good from that standpoint. And now they can get down to business playing Baylor. Same thing with BYU, although a lot of people didn't think BYU would dominate Southern Illinois the way they did. But so, I mean, yeah, you pick up this and that, but not really. This next week is where we're going to find out a little more about both of those teams.
So let's start with tomorrow night in Dallas. So BYU on the road, 5 o'clock Mountain Time, ESPN2 against SMU, 11.5-point underdog, Gordon.
Yeah.
If I'm a BYU fan, tomorrow night is concerning. I'll tell you why. You lose tomorrow night, you have to go on the road and beat Wyoming. Then you have to find 4 conference wins to go bowling. You look at their schedule, I don't see 4 conference wins because it's K-State at home, at Baylor. It's Arizona at home. It's OK State at home. Then it's on the road at UCF. I'm convinced UCF is going to be a problem this year. Then on the road against Utah. Then home against Kansas. Arizona State looked really good week 1.
Yeah.
They're on the road at ASU. Then they close it out with a very winnable game because Houston is horrible.
Yes.
I see maybe 2 conference wins on that schedule, and the one I'm giving them is Houston, and then the other one has to come from a really difficult opponent when you're not going to be favored. They lose tomorrow night. I don't think it's super hyperbolic to say this might be another year of 4 or 5 wins. They're not going bowling.
Last week you hit the nail on the head, Spence. You said they have to win their non-conference games in order to give themselves a shot in that regard. This game tomorrow night, I think, is really important because if they lose this game, for all the reasons that you just articulated, they will be in trouble. Will Retzlaff will he show what he showed against Southern Illinois against SMU? Can the defense keep that team under control? Will the run game? Here's the thing. The Cougars, they picked up, 95, 195, 175? I don't know. It was almost 200 rushing yards.
179.
And none of them, there wasn't one star. They did it by committee. I think 10 different players carried the ball. And that's all fine. But at some point, it's like we talk about in the NBA how star-ridden teams or star-laden teams have the advantage in big moments because they can count on that guy to do it. I wonder about this by committee thing. Utah's doing the same thing by committee, running the football. Will they be able to depend on someone in that group who can pick up big yards against a tough opponent, against a really quality defense? Can you count on that? I don't know. And that offensive line for BYU got some praise. But I still have some questions there. I don't know how that's going to go. But Jake Retzlaff, this guy is going to have to play great for the Cougars to have any shot at this sort of mediocre season you're talking about, as opposed to one that is subpar. And so we're gonna learn a whole lot tomorrow night. I think that's a huge game for the Cougars.
I thought LJ looked good. LJ Martin's healthy. I like the Hinckley Rapati kid who's his backup. To your point, they did use a lot of backs. Miles Davis. Chase Roberts is awesome. He had a couple of carries too. I think they're going to use Chase in a way that Utah uses Brant. They're going to move him all over the place. He caught 10 balls. He went for, I think, a buck 08. But I do think the running back spot will settle in between LJ and Hinckley, and I think that's good. But let me follow up about Retzlaff, because I was told about 2 weeks ago, and you know who I'm talking to. He's like, it's Jake. I'm like, yeah, I figured as much. And so I wasn't surprised to see him trot out, but you were down there. I was not. Did he pass the eye test? It looked good from the television perspective, but if BYU is going to do anything in conference, Jake's got to be really good. Your thoughts on week 1?
20 or 30 with 3 touchdowns. And, yeah, he looked good. He looked comfortable. And, again, you're playing Southern Illinois. But, I think he did pass the eye test. And that is why I'm so curious about what's going to happen tomorrow night. And road games in general. You know, when you're in a situation where you got the crowd screaming at you and you're playing a quality opponent, can you rise up? Can he rise up and lead his team to victory when that's exactly what they need? Traditionally, that's what BYU's good quarterbacks have done. They've made sort of kind of good teams much better, and in some cases, they've made good teams great. And that is really kind of unfair to lay on all that on Retzlaff, but there you have it. He's got to play great for the Cougars to win.
Yeah, I mean, that's the pressure of playing that position. And I don't want to bring up last year to juxtapose it to week 1, because to your point, Southern Illinois is Southern Illinois. But if you're a BYU fan, you saw Jake last year against West Virginia, Iowa State, Oklahoma, and OK State. Now, Oklahoma and OK State were top 20 teams. Iowa State ran them off the field. They got smoked at Morgantown. But he was making mistake after mistake after mistake. And so you just wanted a clean game no matter who was on the other side. And I think if you're a BYU fan, you're glad you got that.
Yeah, you did get exactly that. That game against Oklahoma last year, I mean, if Retzlaff hadn't thrown that interception, the Cougars might win that game.
Right, yep.
But it didn't happen that way. So, but you know this, Spence. Remember your first time that you were hosting a show?
I do.
Do you really have specific memories of that?
Yeah.
How'd it go? Were you smooth from the start?
The first time I was in the lead chair, It was not smooth, certainly. And sometimes I don't feel like it is now. But to your point, I probably was a lead host for 3 or 4 years before I'm like, I got it. And then ultimately 7 or 8 years before I'm like, drop me in any city in America, I'll give you 4 hours. But it probably took me 7 or 8 years, right? And doing this alone for 5 years now has kind of put me on a different level in my own mind because I'm delusional with my own talents. But to your point, no, it probably took me 3 or 4 years in the main chair before I felt comfortable.
And so that's why the first year of a quarterback's playing significant time, important time, you just can't judge them. I remember John Elway's first game in the NFL. He sucked. He was horrible in that game. And so there are varying degrees of improvement that a quarterback needs to make as he plays. But it wouldn't surprise me to see Retzlaff considerably better than what we saw a year ago. And we're going to start finding out tomorrow night. And that's a beautiful thing about it. On the other hand, Cam Rising at Utah, I mean, that's a guy who you knew he was good. And I was just so impressed. I mean, even though I knew he was good, for him to observe the field, peruse the field the way he did, and to deliver the ball where it needs to go, on target, on time, and throwing the right place for the right reasons, that's what a veteran quarterback does. And that's the difference between a guy who's hosting the show for the first time and a guy who's been around the block 1,000 times.
Yeah, I feel like last week was a little bit of a sigh of relief for both fan bases for different reasons. For BYU, it's like, hey, we actually might have a guy. We've been told all offseason, it's this battle between Bohannon and Retzlaff. Maybe Jake is better than any of us thought he was. And for Utah, it was like, oh, Cam still looks like that.
Yeah.
Right? And so that was the sigh of relief, I think, for Ute fans. But I wanted to get your thoughts on the way I perceive that game should be talked about by Ute fans and people that love Utah football, because Kyle talks about it all the time. On the ESPN broadcast of Utah SUU, they showed a comment that Kyle is now using for new recruits. It says, quote, "We will not become you. You will become us." I was like, okay, perfect, right? Like when Kyle writes his book, that should be chapter number 1. And then during media this week, he said, I asked 2 things. You know what we want you to do, and you're physically capable of doing it, period, right? No hyperbole, no coach speak. And I thought last Thursday was a team that is coached by Kyle Whittingham, showing up on time, knowing what they had to do physically, and being physically able to do it and simply doing their job. I don't think it was a statement to anyone. I think it was a relief for people around here to see that, yeah, this team looks like, what we thought they'd look like, albeit against a lesser opponent.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. And Kyle Whittingham said that. He said, we did what we should have done against this team. And so what are they capable of doing? I almost got the feeling like watching the Utes against Southern Utah, it's almost like having a Ferrari and driving it around town.
Which you would know about. Is that the ride these days?
I've never had a Ferrari.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Porsche.
It's
you don't want to go down this path, buddy.
But have you?
No, I've never driven a Ferrari. I drive a normal person's car.
I mean, have you ever driven a supercar around town?
I have not. No, I'm a normal person, Gordon. There are not many people that just cruise around towns in Porsches and then get a new one every 3 years.
It's just frustrating. It's like driving. Well,
did you say it's frustrating?
Yes.
Shame on you.
Yes, because
there are people struggling to pay bills, Gordon.
I know.
And you're laughing.
No, I'm just saying that it's almost, you'd be more comfortable driving a Hyundai.
Have you ever driven a Hyundai around town? I'm quite sure the answer to that is absolutely not.
My daughter owns it.
Okay, but you don't.
I've driven it
around town.
Well, just around a little bit.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying.
Oh, you just decided to cruise around in her Hyundai when your Porsche's in the garage. All right.
I drove it somewhere. But anyway, the point is that when you're driving a car like that and you're just driving around town, it has a rough ride. You can't really get it up to speed. And it's just sort of, like I said, it's frustrating. And that was the Utes against Southern Utah.
I'm sorry you're going through these issues.
They were driving around town in a Ferrari. That was frustrating because they couldn't really open it up. Are you kidding me? Cam Rising, he had how many yards in the first half? It was done before that first half was over.
This is actually not your worst analogy now that you're unpacking it. Yeah. I kind of like it.
And, he throws 5 touchdown passes. Is that what it was? I
Yeah.
can't remember now. I lost count.
It was 5, yep.
And so he couldn't really open it up. And I think most of you folks out there have been in some kind of vehicle where you couldn't open it up. And when you get out on the open road and, baby, you open that thing up, drive legally and lawfully.
Sure. Sure.
Observing
Sure.
local
Sure.
speed limits and whatnot. Unless you're going across Nevada. But anyway, open it up and it feels right. I mean, you're going to laugh at me. And I set myself up just to get killed here. But I had the first Porsche I ever had.
Oh, my gosh. Don't ever say that sentence to anyone ever again if you want to be relatable on any level.
Remember the time when you wanted
the first Porsche I ever had, he says.
You were encouraging me to buy a Mitsubishi just so you – not a Mitsubishi, I'm sorry, a Maserati.
Maserati, yes.
Just so you could kill me.
Of course. Of course.
Anyway, you get that thing out on the road and you get up to triple digits and the thing just settles in. Settles in. Yeah. It settles down on the road, and you can just feel every turn and beautiful. That's what we're going to see out of Utah when they get out on the open road. And they haven't been out in the open road yet, but we're gonna see that.
Will we see it on Saturday?
I would expect to.
Okay.
Now, Baylor's better than people thought they were going to be, but I expect the Utes to be able to handle that, especially playing on their home track.
See, here's my thing, Gordon. I don't think you're wrong about potentially Baylor being a little bit better than most people think. But if Utah football is who they say they are and who we think they are, I don't give a rip. Go beat them by 3 touchdowns.
And that's probably why Kyle had no problem with the Utes playing opening with Southern Utah, because now they can get down to business and they know they've popped the pads against an opponent. They know what that feels like. They've gotten that out of the way, and now they get to take care of their business with Baylor. But the funny thing about that is so weird, and I'd forgotten until Kyle talked about it, that this isn't a conference game.
No, it's not.
It doesn't count as a conference game. How weird is that?
Yeah, it is odd. Anyway. It is odd. Well, look, it's great to see you. It got weird, but I always like it when it gets weird. Ultimately, it's good to have football back. Obviously. So what's your plan this year for the trip? You just going to kind of pick and choose, the interesting stories? We had Aaron on, and we have been able to get to know Jason Batakiao, the new beat writer for the Utes.
Good young talent.
Yeah, really sharp and great piece on Caleb Lohner. But what can football fans expect from Gordon Monson this year?
I'll be obviously paying close attention to the local teams. And because I have such high expectations for the Utes. I mean, I'm on the record. I guaranteed that they would be a championship-level team this year. I think that's what Ute fans are looking at. I know that makes a lot of people associated with the Big 12 upset because they just feel like there's a lot of presumption there. But, folks, listen to me. This team is really talented, is really good, and has really good coaches. And they know their personnel. They know how to use them, as you alluded to earlier, Spence. That team is a Ferrari that's going to run on the track. BYU, I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe they're better than we thought. Kalani swore to me. He swore to me, Spence, that this team was much better than it was getting credit for, and I didn't believe him. I mean, I kind of believe him because I respect the man, but who knows? Maybe I'm not going to be blown away by a 41-13 victory for the Cougars down there, but tomorrow night is going to tell, it may tell the story of the season. Because they lose to SMU, then they got what you were talking about, and that's Wyoming must not be very good, so that maybe that challenge won't be as much as what we might have thought.
Yeah, but that's a weird trip, Gordon.
Yeah, it is.
Remember back in the day when both Utah and BYU had to do that every other year, and I went up there a couple of times. I know you did too. I don't think Wyoming's very good. That's just like a weird dynamic to deal with. It's an odd trip for even teams so close to take it. I'm not saying they're going to lose. I'm saying that's not an easy trip sometimes.
You know what's weird about that is, the reputation of the fans up there in Laramie. And one time I went up there, and we got up there early, and so I had a chance to go over to where they had their tailgating and whatnot. I went over and talked to some of the people over there, salt of the earth.
Sure.
They were so nice.
Sure.
And polite, and it wasn't anything what I expected because of the way it comes down once the game starts.
Well, when you throw poop at people
urine bombs.
You're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. Sorry.
Yeah. But it was a different dynamic. And so maybe it just sports sometimes brings out the worst in people.
Would you rather have beer poured on you or poop thrown at you? Instapoll time. Give us a call.
I think I'll take the beer. I
think that's probably the right move.
Yeah. Anyway, so we'll see if the Cougars can exceed our expectations. All the Utes have to do is live up to our expectations.
Right.
And then Ute fans will see something this year that they've never seen before, and that's a team going to the playoff.
MLS playoffs right around the corner. RSL's off, as you know, but they run into Houston and Ben Olsen in just about 9 days. What do you think? What about Ben specifically?
Oh, Ben. Look, there was a quarterback at BYU once named Ben Olsen.
Yeah, but that's not this one.
No, it's not this one. This one is better.
Oh, really?
This one is better.
Yeah.
But I call him Benny Boy.
Do you really?
Yeah, because I've known him for a long time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I don't think – I think RSL – it's good to see them get back on track.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they have a shot to do to live up to what they had as goals when the season started.
And you don't think – but you think Ben's too good. He stands in their way.
No, I don't think that will be a big problem.
Oh, okay. Interesting. All right. Great to see you. Thanks for coming in, all right?
My pleasure.
The great Gordon Monson. All right, let's bring in Ryan from the Dish Bros. Give him a call. It's 801-424-DISH. Dish is the one place where you can get all your sports. The apps are like channels. You'll save a grip of money right out of the gates and get new equipment. 801-424-DISH. What's going on, Ryan?
Hey, this is the time to call. It's football season is here. And, guys, listen, we've got you covered, getting you the best DVR out there that will auto-record your games, auto-hop the commercials. And, guys, listen, if you're a part of this DirecTV debacle with Disney, this is going to be a frustrating one. Not having those channels, and we don't know how long this is going to last. I would call and see how much money we can save you. Typically $60 to $100+ a month. I've seen above $100 in the $200 range. But here's the thing: call us up if you've got a big bill. If your cable company is just continue to raise your bill, there is so many more options out there with fantastic internet and TV packages with huge credits for the next 2 years. Plus, you get the amazing Hopper technology, like Spence said, where all of the streaming apps can be built into the system. They'll work on all your TVs, and you don't have to change inputs. You pick up the same remote. You watch regular satellite TV, or you switch to a streaming app and watch a game or show on that system, all encompassed into the same system. So call us up. Let's get you the best price. I'll throw in dinner at JCW's. How about the multi-sports pack free for a year, which includes the NFL Red Zone? And we guarantee the best price. If you call now, we'll throw in dinner at JCW's, 801-424-DISH.
All right, there he is, Ryan from the Dish Bros. More coming up next right here on ESPN 700. It is Sports Court time. We do it every Thursday, right about now, with our good friends Garrett and Preston Handy from the law firm of Handy and Handy. Gentlemen, happy Thursday. How are we doing?
Hey, Spence. How's it going?
Hi, Spence.
All good here. So let's get into it. For our listeners in the 4 o'clock hour, we'll start with just a tragic story from the world of pro hockey, where Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew were struck by a driver of a car, and it's just, they had the memorial for Johnny in his hometown. I saw some of that on SportsCenter. Just a super, super sad situation. Fill us in. What's the latest?
Yeah, Spence, it's been all over the sports world for the last week or so. Background, Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew, two high-end hockey players. Johnny had played 10 or 11 years in the NHL, a really beloved guy and very successful hockey player, made a lot of money. They were in town in New Jersey, this adds to the story, to attend their sister's wedding the next day. Well, they're out riding bikes on what's identified as a country road, one lane each way, and they are supposedly over on the shoulder off to the side, and well, here comes along this driver, and there's a car in front of him. Lay this out, he's going northbound, the same direction as the Gaudreau brothers. He passes a car, impatiently passes a car, and goes back into the northbound lane, and at that time there's another car there, which is kind of straddling the center lane, so he couldn't pass it on the left. So what he does is he makes a crazy decision. He tries to pass a one lane on the right, on the shoulder, and he ends up hitting these two hockey players and killing them instantly. So that's the facts leading up to it. So, the investigation shows that this driver, not only was he was driving under the influence of alcohol, he admitted that he'd been drinking. He also admitted that alcohol added to him being impatient. He failed field sobriety tests. So fast forward and here what we have is the guy has been charged with 2 counts of vehicular homicide, which each carry 10 years in prison. It rises to that level because of, he killed the damages, the level of the damages of if he just clipped a car, he'd be liable for damages and, having violated some traffic laws and failure to keep a proper lookout, all kinds of things. But because these 2 were killed, he's going to be prosecuted and tried criminally. It's a really sad deal, well, he's being held right now, and he's going to show up for his arraignment. We'll see how that goes. He's kind of admitted a lot of things, but he's still entitled to due process. Let Garrett kind of talk about potentially what could happen on the civil end and the difficulties with that. I mean, Gaudreau was a high earner and young family.
Go ahead, Garrett.
Yeah, undoubtedly, in addition to the criminal charges here, there will be a civil claim. I mean, there's also, a claim for that, for the negligence, recklessness, punitive damages, and it's 2 wrongful death claims. But, as a personal injury lawyer looking at this thing, I look at this and go, there's never going to be enough, number one, insurance coverage or money or assets or anything to come close to ever fully compensating. I mean, I just don't know that you can, right, with a wrongful death of 2 young guys and dads and husbands. And so it's a tragic thing, but I mean, I think there will be, some civil case will come of this and some kind of resolution, but it's going to depend on a lot on this defendant, on what insurance he's got or any assets.
The NFL is back tonight, which means gamblers everywhere are rejoicing. So let's move over to a story that combines the NFLPA and DraftKings in an NFT ruling. What's the latest here?
Yeah, I mean, NFTs, Spence. I mean, are you up to speed on?
You know what? I've got 3 or 4 very shady friends and family members that seem to be way into it. But every time I get hit up, I'm like, hey, I'm good. You guys do your thing.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, right? But a non-fungible token, it's a unique digital asset, right? And something about the blockchain and codes and how these are these unique objects. But anyway, what it is, the NFL Players Association entered into a contract in 2021 with DraftKings. This is kind of the height of the NFT craze. And basically this contract would allow DraftKings to produce these NFTs and earn royalties, and they would pay right? They would pay the NFL Players Association because they're using players, they're using their image to create these NFTs. And so, as the NFT craze has kind of fizzled, and DraftKings is, the way it looks, wanting to get out of this deal, and there's a little bit of a loophole that they're latching onto. And it goes to this issue of really what is an NFT, right? I mean, is it a security? That's kind of the question. And so the contract would allow them to back out of the deal if it's found that an NFT is a security, that's a tradable financial asset, kind of like a stock or a bond, right? And that's kind of the idea that, the way these NFTs are talked about, that it's this investment that you could, sell it or whatever. So there's a court that, this is the kind of the controversy, that there's a separate case involving DraftKings, and there was a motion to dismiss, which found that dismissed this case. And DraftKings is latching on to this to say, hey, in this other case, the court determined that that NFTs are securities. And the NFL is saying, wait a minute, and has filed this lawsuit against DraftKings saying that motion to dismiss doesn't establish that it's that it's a security yet. So that still has to be determined. So this is kind of this moving target on what is an NFT and is it a security? And if it is, it's going to get DraftKings potentially out of the contract with NFL Players Association.
Go ahead, Preston.
It's kind of a contractual matter, but then they're trying to get out on a basis they could. It says if it is a security, it compels certain rules the way you do it and the way they sell it. So that's kind of not my area, but it's heady stuff.
All right, let's move over to the latest with Glenn Big Baby Davis, who's had a rough time since he stopped playing basketball. It looks like he was going to start spending his prison sentence, but it's been delayed because he wants to be in a movie that's backed by Kevin Garnett. Sentences I never thought I'd say for $500. That's what I love about sports court. You guys go ahead.
Gary, you got this one?
Yeah, I got it. No, that's true. I mean, again, just the really quick background on this. We've talked about it before on Sports Court, but Glenn Big Baby Davis was convicted as being, putting together this scheme to defraud the NBA players' health care fund. I mean, he was just submitting these fake invoices and things like that for dental treatment and getting reimbursement and depleting this fund. And so he was convicted. He's got as you mentioned, a 40-month sentence that he's supposed to start. It's been postponed a couple of times. And the reason is because he's going to be in this documentary film about his life, and they're trying to wrap production on this documentary. And I think a lot of people would hear this and go, well, wait a minute, why is him being able to participate in a documentary about himself the reason for not sending him right away to jail? And the reason is because he stands to make some money from this documentary in the form of royalties. And that money could be used in turn to pay the restitution and pay back the victims. And so in a way, I mean, that's presented to the judge, and the judge found that was convincing and said, okay, well, we'll let him stay out until October 22nd, this adjournment on his prison time. And the idea is, again, that he could potentially benefit from the film, and that would in turn benefit the victims.
Because I was raised by a father that liked to use a stern tone, I realized after the stern tone that was used by Preston that I skipped the story. So let's move over to the Brett Favre stuff, and then we'll finish with the Finau stuff, and you guys can go back and forth on that. And again, the category of sentences I never thought I'd say for $500. Brett Favre seeks boost from Sarah Palin's legal playbook. Preston, the time is yours.
Yeah, this is Brett, I won't go away, Favre. So we know the background. I mean, there was a bunch of stuff, but after all the stuff with the welfare funds and the fraud and the stuff with the state of Mississippi, Shannon Sharp goes on one of the radio shows, I think, with Pat McAfee, and they both come up with statements where they say Favre, he stole welfare funds that were for welfare recipients, and as a result, they were kind of implying that, that was a bad thing you did, Brett. Well, Brett, what he did is he filed defamation lawsuits against both Shannon Sharp and Pat McAfee, but we're focused on Shannon Sharp right now. Defamation, you have to show that there's a false statement made and that it, in fact, caused damages, and you can prove those damages. One of the issues that goes into this is that Brett Favre he's a public figure, and with public figure, you have to show actual malice. Well, his lawsuit back in October, a long time ago, was dismissed. The court basically said, yeah, looking at all this, Brett, we're not even going to let this go forward. We don't even think you can meet the standards of defamation and go forward. And that's a great thing for any defendant, to get dismissed before it even gets going down the road. Well, Brett appealed it, and it's on appeal right now. And as it's on appeal, what happens is a lawsuit involving Sarah Palin, where she has filed a defamation lawsuit, and not getting into it too much, she had sued a columnist over a statement was made that regarding some mapping and districting that she did, that the columnist implied that this resulted in some type of people showing up at this rally and where there was a shooting, and Congressman Griffin got shot along with other people, and kind of implied that, well, this was you putting out this redistricting that caused this violence and these type of things. Well, she sued, and the columnists, the publication came out and said, yeah, we aired on that. That was wrong. But she sued, went ahead suing, and a couple of interesting things happened. It made it all the way to trial, and the judge, while the jury's out deliberating, he dismisses the lawsuit and basically says, you're not going to be able to show actual malice because she's a public figure. Well, she appealed that, and the appeal court came out and said, yeah, we think the judge erred on this in pulling it from the jury, and so we're going to grant her appeal, and she's going to be able to pursue with that. But what happened was Brett Favre, his attorneys, while this is on appeal, they see this happening, and they think there's synonymous and analogous. They're a little different, but they think they want to go back to the court and say they wrote a letter to the court. This isn't an official pleading court document. They wrote it to the court and said, hey, court, look what happened over here in the Sarah Palin court where on appeal the panel decided that she gets to go back to trial. I don't know that it's convincing, and it's not controlling. It's not controlling law where it hasn't gone up, and this court is bound by it. So I suspect that the appeal will just go through, and the court's not going to really rely on that or consider the letter to keep it going, and dismiss the appeal, and he'd be going against Shannon Sharpe. The thing I find interesting is Pat McAfee got out of this, and Shannon Sharpe's still in the crosshairs.
All right, final one for today. It's the latest with the Tony Finau trial date. He is being sued, and we've talked about it on the show. Malona Ola, I believe, is his name. And originally it looked like this thing was going to trial in the next little bit, but apparently there's been a delay. So fill us in before I set you loose.
I'll start out. We've talked about it, and we're all sitting there excited. This thing's going to, here's the wheels of justice, turning slowly. This was filed in 2020, and it was set to go to an 8-day jury trial this October, and I was excited to see what was happening because we talked about it a lot. Well, the judge comes out with a ruling that's due to extenuating circumstances or conditions that haven't been identified, and they're private right now, and it will come out at some point that he has what's called continued, means that you're going to delay and reset the trial. So there's talk now by the attorneys that they want to try and get it for the first of the year, but the court's saying, that the calendar goes out a long ways, and they're saying maybe you can get in May. And one of the attorneys said, no, I've got a conflict during that time. So it hasn't been reset. They're hoping it gets reset. I was thinking to myself, Tony's probably loving this, that it was he's not loving it, but from a convenience standpoint, October's the downtime for golf season, where the big tournaments are, and, he can get through this. But now if it's set in 2025, maybe in the peak of the PGA schedule next year, he might have to show up for a trial. I'm sure his attorneys will come in and bark that, you can't do this. This is his career. This is livelihood, and this is the important 6-8 months during the season. But I'll let Garrett talk about the other thing. He filed a motion for change of venue.
Go ahead, Garrett.
Yeah, the change of venue is to move it from Utah County to Salt Lake County, and the plaintiffs want to move it. And the basis for their argument is that they're going to get a better chance at having a fair jury in Salt Lake County because the demographic difference is that Tony, they're saying, in Utah County has a leg up because of his LDS faith, and that you're going to have a chance for more LDS jurors on the jurors serving on that trial. and that he would get potentially a more favorable or biased result because of it. So I mean, it's really interesting. It's going to really come down to a lot of demographics. Be curious to see any debriefing in this change of venue motion.
All right, guys, before I set you loose, for any of our listeners who have legal questions, how do they get a hold of you over at Handy and Handy?
Yeah, Spence, we love to come on in here and talk about these issues and the legal issues in the world of sports. We're a personal injury law firm, help people that have been involved in accidents and injured. Give us a call at 801-264-6677 or jump on our website at handylawutah.com. You can submit questions there and you can learn about us.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great weekend, and as always, go Utes.
Go Utes.
All right, before we catch a break, it's Ryan from the Dish Pros. The NFL is back tonight, week 2 of college football. Bad news if you're a DirecTV subscriber. Ryan will unpack that for you. Your job is to dial 801-424-DISH. What's going on, man?
Yes, give us a call today because we can have a solution in your house tomorrow. Take advantage of the promotions we have right now. 2-year offer, 2-year price guarantee. If you're a DirecTV customer, most likely you're going to save $60 to $100+. Or if you're a cable customer and you've got that big bill, guys, it might even be more for you. Call us up and see what we can do for you. I've got about 10 different internet providers at my fingertips. There are so many good services out there. I'm able to actually bundle with Dish Internet for $50 a month, and you get a bundle discount. I've got another provider with a $200 gift card. So we have tons of solutions. We want to save you money. We want to get you a system that works in this day and age where, if a game shows up on a streaming app, you just launch it right within the streaming, the Dish system, and it'll work on every one of your TVs. No headache, no hassle, no changing remotes, inputs. We want to make your life simple and easy so you can watch the games you want to watch and have the best experience. Call us up today. I'll throw in the multi-sports pack, which includes the NFL Red Zone, get you that 2-year promotion. The price is guaranteed not to change. And throw in dinner at JCW's, 801-424-DISH.
All right, final hour of the show is next, right here on ESPN 700. finally coming out of time. I've been reading about how this week and they drop up and say, oh, there you go. I have to this week. I'm with Greek Fest. And Sunday, oh, down at the Greek Festival. So that's all right, well, let's see some. I got in the. I don't know. I felt like we were in really bad spots as a society when I started hearing things. But from the realm of two things can be true, I saw this story yesterday. So the Washington Commanders have fired an employee one day after a video surfaced in which he made comments about the team's players being anti-gay, accused Jerry Jones of being racist, and called NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell a $50 million puppet. So when I saw the story, I'm like, well, this guy obviously sucks, right? And he probably does. Okay, his name is, I believe it's Rael Enteen. He was Washington's VP of Content, not a real job, but for the previous 4 years. And he also criticized fans and called them mouth breathers, which I thought was pretty funny. So they suspended him when the video surfaced. Today they've decided to fire him, okay? According to the video, here's where it gets odd, okay? So there's a media company. You know what? I'm not even going to say their name because I don't think they deserve attention. But a random media group was the one who received access to this video and then put that video out on their social media platforms. Here's where I have a real issue. Like I said, this guy obviously probably deserved to lose his job based off of the things that he said. Among them were, and he said this to an undercover reporter. So among the things he said was, quote, over 50% of our roster is white and religious, and they love God, but they say F the gays. Another big chunk is low-income African Americans that come from a community that is inherently very homophobic. I mean, he went all in on Jerry Jones, went all in on Roger Goodell. He said that most NFL fans are high school educated alcoholics and called them mouth breathers, which is kind of a funny line. Probably shouldn't say that out loud. But here's where it gets really weird, okay? According to the video, Enteen had met the woman who he was talking to on a dating app called Hinge, and they met twice for dates, and she was an undercover reporter for this media group that was setting him up from the start. How are you supposed to date anymore? I'm not excusing, outside of some of the lines that were kind of funny, I'm not going to lie, but my man obviously went all in a way that you can't if you're working for an NFL team to keep your job. But now we have undercover reporters from random media groups on dating apps tricking people into dates and recording their conversations privately. Like, I have a problem with all of this, not just my man over here, but this undercover reporter. He's looking for love, thinks he found it, meets up with her a couple of times. She's recording he's recording their conversations, hoping he says something salacious so she can have a gotcha moment on social media. This story, to me, Porter, encapsulates really what sort of bleep show we find ourselves in with the inability to communicate with each other socially, dating or otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, and we could go in several different directions there. You mentioned the actual employee who was let go. Yeah, maybe some funny stuff, but if I'm the football team, I'm probably letting him go as well. Although he wasn't wrong about certain things there in the football world that are problematic, those things do exist. But the way it comes out, where you are being duped by someone on Tinder, on a dating app, thinking that you're going to maybe find the love of your life.
It was Hinge.
Oh, it was Hinge. Sorry,
I'm not familiar with the app.
I don't want to speak poorly of Tinder when it was Hinge.
Okay.
Or Bumble.
Fish in the Sea. LDS Singles.
Farmers Only.
The best one by far.
It's the only one I have an account for.
You have to be on that. At some point, I know you're going to roll in with a partner you met on farmersonly.com.
Probably.
I love it.
But yeah, that's a little next level of, investigative journalism, and I don't think it's journalism at all. I do think there's a way where you can perform journalism without telling the subject maybe exactly what you're going for. Doing it on Hinge to a content creator for a football team is wild and silly, and I'm sure we'll hear more on this story, but pretty crazy stuff.
Man, be careful out there, daters. Be careful on those dating apps. You might be going to dinner with an undercover reporter that's recording your conversation so she can blast it out on her socials. The world is going to hell. I'm going to bed. Great line. All right, before we get out of here, what comes our way, Porter, on a Friday edition of the show?
On a Friday edition of the program, of course, we will preview Baylor and Utah. We'll talk a little NFL, of course, following the program tonight. Just after this, you'll get NFL football on this station. So, of course, we'll be dialed into that. Kevin Reynolds of the Tribune for a little BYU and SMU. Mike Yam joins the program of the NFL Network. We'll chat with Chris Kamrani, our Friday staple, and John Morris, the voice of the Baylor Bears, will give us a little insight into the Utes' opponent on this Saturday.
All right, that'll be good stuff. Start your weekend out the right way with us on Friday. Come down and say what's up to me at the Greek Festival. Get some tailgate passes and some other giveaways we'll have down there for sure. And with that, we'll say goodnight. Special thank you today, Delane Fitzgerald, Craig Bowlerjack, Nick Olchek, Gordon Monson as well. For any of the sound you may have missed, head on over to the website. It's ESPN700sports.com. Make sure to download our mobile app and take us on the go. ESPN 700 app is available.
And if the subway's flooded, bridge is